What's going on, everybody? Happy Friday to everybody. This little guy, come here. Come on. This little guy here is getting old, right? We're gonna put him right on blast on camera. Say hi to everybody. This guy's about 14 and a half. He's the, no pun intended, tiniest wiener you've ever seen. But he's getting close to approaching the Rainbow Bridge, aren't you, buddy? Ain't he? Yeah, he is. He can't see no more. Can't walk up and down the stairs no more. That's right, buddy. You can't. These are the unfortunate times when you decide to own a dog, right? Nobody cares if it's a pit bull, a giant dog, you know, a lab, dachshund like this guy here. Nobody cares, but this guy's been with me for a long, long time, and he's hanging in there. But he's got kidney failure and all that, and he's shaking. He's got to go outside, so we're gonna take him out. We're gonna be right back. This guy right here, we gonna let him live out the best days of his life at the end, aren't we, buddy? Yes, we are. Say hello to the people. Say hello. You can say hello. We'll be right back. All right, we back. I like to say welcome to the live stream, folks. Friday night. I am Daniel James. This is little I've called him for 14 and a half years, little Tucker James. He don't want to be here. We're gonna let him go. Well, we're gonna get into some stuff tonight. It's gonna be a little non-conventional thing. I decided, it's been a long time. I hope everybody's doing well. It's been a long time since I've gone live. It's been a long time since I've done videos. Everybody's got their different reasons for that and things that they're doing in their personal life. But I've decided that, there's a lot of things, man, that I want to talk about. There's a lot of things I want to discuss, and I want to go over them unfiltered. Not really have any qualms about talking about them. Whether there's one person watching, or 10, or 20, or 50, I really don't care. Obviously, I started a new channel. It's a very intermittent thing, when I decided to do this, and life gets in the way. Life throws you all kind of curveballs, and there's things that you got to do and you got to take charge of. But man, there's so much going on in our country, and there's so much going on for each and every single one of us folks, and I want to talk about a number of those here tonight. It's been a long time since I've done a live stream, obviously, and so there's a couple things that I decided to do a different kind of live stream tonight. Number one, I want to go straight to the point of the matter and be 100% authentic and genuine. It's Friday night. I'm the kind of person that is genuinely pretty fun and kind of goes with the flow and does whatever comes my way. And I have been drinking, full disclosure. I'm drinking tonight. So cheers to anybody that is as well. It's Friday. It's a little boring here for this particular evening. We got a lot of rain. I am drinking tonight. I have no qualms about saying it. I have no qualms about saying anything that I'm going to say tonight. And there's been a point that I've come to where I've realized we are in the state in this country where you just kind of got to speak your piece. You know what I mean? You got to speak whatever is true to you and how you feel about things. And that's what I intend to do. There's a couple other things I want to mention right off the bat in this video, since it has been so incredibly long since I have gone live. We all know that a lot of people around here have come via, the Las Vegas shooting community. I want to give a shout out to Pointed Stick for sure. Had an opportunity to chat with him briefly in the last, week about what he's been doing and how he's been staying on top of stuff. And I have full respect for that. I love the fact that he's still he's going back over the investigative reports. I had an opportunity the other night to tune into what he was doing, going over some of the old reports. And I feel like there's more to that, in terms of why he's doing that. I emailed him just here a second ago. I said, Pointed Stick, if you're out there, you happen to catch this, you want to jump on, feel free. And he has been, sort of really delving back into some of the nitty-gritty of the Las Vegas shooting. And while time goes by so fast, man, it goes by so fast, things get forgotten so easily. Things get really just tossed under the rug, and everybody forgets why everybody came together. Things blow apart. Nobody is kind of conversing the same way they used to. So the fact that in Pointed Stick, as a straight up to you, thank you for reaching out, just emailing me. I appreciate that. It came at a time where you need those things from time to time. To hear somebody that doesn't really even know you personally reach out and just see how you're doing and what's going on is really appreciative. But I really appreciate that. So I want to talk about a number of things tonight, and again, I don't care if there's one person listening, no people listening, or 8 billion people listening. It doesn't really matter. I want to get into some of the issues just sort of surrounding all of us, in this country, and what's going on. And I know the title can be a little bit, oh man, political bias and all this crap, but I want to get into how we ended up, where the place that we're at right now. Like, how did this happen? And also kind of ask some questions as to, does anybody actually think, did anybody actually think we're going to end up in the place that we are right now? And the reason why I say that is because I'm quite certain that a lot of people, when all the hoopla and all the nonsense was going on about the election and the political divide was what it was, I'm pretty sure that there's people even on the opposite side of each other that did not anticipate that we were going to end up in the position we did. Which is, and I will say this candidly, that there's things going on in this country right now that I can't believe are actually happening. Like, I can't believe I'm alive to witness some of these things in terms of the way that people are, the internet, you know, and this will age you too, by the way. Any of you folks out there that are old enough to remember the days when you were growing up and didn't have the internet, these things are jarring, you know, and you start thinking about the days where you didn't have any of these things. And then you start juxtaposing that against these days when we do, and everything is accessible. Every opinion, every viewpoint, everything you want to say is easily accessible. You can get up on a platform 24/7 anytime, just like this. You can get up, you know, on a platform anytime you want and basically say anything you want. And this is such a divide from what, you know, when I grew up, the first half of my life, from not having any of that, you know. And when I was growing up, there was a sort of an unspoken rule that, you know, when we talk about platforms, and I'm going to ramble on here. I'm just going to tell y'all right now, this might be a long one. I don't know what I'm going to get into. I'm probably going to ramble on. If you're the kind of person that likes listening to rambling stuff, God bless you. If not, you hate me, that's fine. Whatever you want to do. But, you know, I'm old enough to remember that at one point in life, you had to sort of earn, you know, your platform. You know, you had to earn respect among your peers in terms of being somebody that was intellectually responsible and educated, and, you know, knew your viewpoints and knew all the things that you wanted to talk about. And you had to sort of earn that respect among your peers to be able to sort of step up into the limelight and actually give a take, so to speak. And now, because of social media and Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all this different stuff, it's kind of like every person under the sun has a platform, has the freedom to just say whatever they want. And it doesn't mean that it's all good opinions. And so that is a serious change from when I was growing up, you know, when I was young. But I got a little bullet point list here. I'm going to go through them sort of one by one. I have a little intro. I'm going to go one by one through these points of things that I want to mention, because I didn't want to go into this. You know, usually in the past, I'm very willy-nilly about how I'm going to do live streams and whatnot, but I actually have some notes. I mean, there's a lot of things that have been going on here for a while, and I want to get into them, and I'm going to talk about them from a weird standpoint, because I'm very much a centrist point of view on what's going on right now. And I've kind of developed this theory about, you know, particularly with politics, you know, with Biden and the whole transition we had between, you know, the hatred and the vitriol with Trump and all that was going on, and then the election stuff, and then everything that went on, and then Biden getting into office, and then now what we're seeing, and then, you know, things still, this is all sort of congruent, right? It's kind of working in the same vicinity. So I want to talk about these things, but I have developed this sort of ideology of, you know, political freedom in terms of like where people stack themselves in the political realm. And I want to touch on that, and then there's a multitude of other things. So this is going to be a long, rambling video. I am not apologetic for it. I don't give a shit. I got a soundboard if I need it. I got applause. I don't care if one person comes in here at all. This is what I do. I'm just going to ramble on. So the first thing I'm going to touch on, and we'll kind of follow the theme of the title of the video. Obviously goes Biden, you know, WTF. In other words, what the fuck, right? What is going on? What is going on with this country, with this administration? Why does it feel like at times you are in such a state of the twilight zone, right? And it kind of feeds into this little, psychological tier factor I have of political ideology. But why does it feel, to me anyway, coming from, and maybe I should preface this by saying that when I was growing up, when I was younger, I would consider myself what I would call a classic liberal Democrat, a classic liberal Democrat. That meant punk rock, anti-establishment. I don't want government involved in my business. I want, I challenge authority. All these different things that the classic liberal used to, it used to be a hallmark of the classic liberal. And as I've gotten older, I'm so stunned as to this transition between people that used to be what I would call a classic liberal, like your George Carlins of the world, right? Your punk rock bands. People that are now supporting, Walmart and Amazon because they have to. They're streaming their music and what have you. But they were totally anti-establishment, all that different stuff. And I'm really, really shocked as to the transition of these same people that used to be super anti-establishment and now are full-on supporting this stuff. So when I was younger, I would say that I used to be a classical liberal, a classic, anti-establishment, free speech, advocate, liberal, if we're talking about like the early 90s, right? But now, I have this roadblock where I can't understand how people haven't seen that the extreme ends of this movement, that being, socialist, communism, radical, has overtaken the Democratic Party. And in the Democratic Party, say what you want about it, basically owns everything. I mean, they really do. If you step back and think about it, they own everything. And when I say own, I just mean that their influence and their stronghold exists over everything. It exists over sports. It exists over media, social media, mainstream media, Hollywood, big tech, as people put it, Amazon, Walmart. Amazon's got their own servers, AWS. It exists over that. So you got this conglomerate that exists over the whole top of all this different stuff. And as you get older, you start to realize that one party's interests, let's put it, has control over all of these entities. And it becomes a very, very clear monopoly. Now, if you're a tribalist of this side, or if that's your thing, you're none the wiser, some people, or you don't care, or you support it, and because your biases and all that align with it, you're totally fine with it. But if you start veering either way away from that ideology or that tribe, you start to ask some very serious questions like, we're in major trouble here, because this particular ideology and this faction of political views basically dominates everything that we look at in our everyday life. Everything, almost. And when I look at, conservatives and Republicans and all that, they're one little fraction of what we're talking about with the left or the Democrats or the liberals. And this has gotten so commingled that I don't even want to call one side this or blue or red or liberal, and I don't want to do any of that. But the reality is, it's very clear to see that one ideology has completely overtaken every facet of American life. Whether that, like I said, mention it again, whether it be sports, the politics in general, but social media, mainstream media for sure, advertising dollars, web hosting, your product purchasing online. The list goes on and on and on. So you start wondering, like, this is not good. Now, if you co-sign on this group of folks, all seems well to you, right? All seems good because that's your tribe. And it seems like, you people over there, you crazy people, you January 6 people, or you Trumpers, or you whatever name that the media comes up for everybody that opposes any ideology on that side of the equation, you start feeling like you're in the twilight zone, because the reality is every single person on the opposition of that is not some crazy loon conspiracy theorist, white supremacist, all the labels that we're hearing in the media. Like, that's just simply not true. Many of the people that there's many classical liberals that are watching what's going on with the really extreme radical left taking over the Democratic movement, saying, this is not what I grew up wanting. And you fall into this state of confusion where you're like, well, how do I support this? Because this is not what I grew up wanting, right? Many people have conformed to that, and then many people are in this state of like perpetual, they're just in the middle. They just don't know what to think about it anymore. And I watch this go on, and I think, where is this going? Where is the ultimate blow up point where this reaches ahead and everybody just sort of says, this is not what I signed up for, right? It's just not what I signed up for. So that it brings me into what's going on with the current administration and censorship and, going after social media companies, going after Facebook, making, really firm stands against disinformation, misinformation. We've all been watching this go on YouTube and social media for a long time. If you're a part of the Las Vegas shooting community, you know what went on. I mean, there were a lot of different channels, some of which were valid. People like me would come along and do actual debunking videos and say, hey, this channel out there is serving you up a reality that isn't true based on the stats, right? Just based on what the actual facts are. And I would come out with videos, or so-and-so would, basically there was an exchange of ideas and videos going against each other without any outside manipulation or censorship or crackdown, so that those entities could go against each other in the free realm of ideas. And the general public would be left to make up their own mind. Now, even going back to the Vegas shooting thing, I saw things coming out where if somebody does something well enough, and if they put the conspiracy theory or the idea or the tangled web together well enough and present it in a fashion to the masses that is convincing enough, you would get people totally buying into this. And truth be told, there would be an element to me that would think, hey, that's not cool, because now you got people running around out there spreading this information. So there's a part of me that understands this whole misinformation, disinformation thing, but it has been taken to a new level with our federal government and with fact checkers and with social media and whatever since the dawn of coronavirus and the pandemic and all that. It's gone to a completely different level. And while I understand the frustration where you're saying, well, this person's putting out erroneous bullshit, let's just call it what it is, this channel, this person, this influencer is putting out really erroneous BS, and it makes me mad. They still had the freedom to share that. And then the person on the other side had the freedom to come at them, for the most part, and go after their information to debunk it, or and this still goes on to this day. And this goes on, it's going on right now in the UFO, UAP community, and I'll touch on that a little bit later. But there's a free exchange of ideas where there is still like the debunking community and the debunk the debunker, and all this different stuff is still going on. So the most disturbing thing to me is that we are going to really censor the crap out of just about your everyday average person in terms of what they're sharing. If a doctor gets online on Facebook, on social media, and has a different viewpoint than is what is considered the narrative or the norm, then that gets censored, right? So this has been going on, and it's been going on since the election and all that different stuff. And there's all these multifaceted psychological premises to this whole thing, and I kind of want to touch on that as I dive down this list here. And look, with that said, we are a group of folks that have never been, in my opinion, this is coming from my standpoint, have never been so divided on the bullshit, right? The things that don't really matter when you zoom out. You know, if you're the kind of person that's capable of taking a, not just a 30,000 foot view, but a light year view. In other words, what is our place in the existence of this universe and the planet and all that different stuff, and this nitty gritty, this little quibbling and this drama that happens down here in these little circles in our little country with these people. It's so minuscule in the grand scheme of things. And if you're not the person that thinks outside the box about the magnitude of, you know, not only the world, you know, the planet, but the galaxy, the universe, you know, how that goes, and you start wondering about all of that, it just seems so petty to me that people are bickering over this stuff. So I came up with a list of where people stand in the political realm, right? So it's sort of a tiered level of where people stand with politics, because politics right now and for the last several years has divided everybody more than anything I've ever seen in my life. And so I've sort of come up with this tiered list of where the average person will fall. And there's more dangerous areas than others. It's kind of a 1 through 5 spectrum. And what I've been able to ascertain just thinking about this a lot is that, so let's go through these. So level 1 is going to be your person that really has, you know, no knowledge of any political ideologies whatsoever. They don't follow politics. They don't really know much about either side. They don't know anything about conservatives versus Democrats. They really don't know the difference between the two. And this would go, you know, back to when I was being brought up. Social media didn't exist. We didn't have any of this stuff. So it was people that were thinking, you know, Democrats, Republicans, don't really care. I don't care. I'm totally independent. Don't think about this stuff. Don't care about presidential candidates. The only thing that I might know about these people is some skit they pulled off on SNL, right? That was me when I was a kid. Didn't care about their politics. Didn't really know. Didn't care to know. Just wanted to live my life, whatever. And then as you grow up, get a little bit older, this is what I would call tier 2, which is when you start, you know, maybe getting into your teenage years and you start getting into this faction of people that are looking at politics from an emotional standpoint. So they start looking at the candidates, particularly presidential candidates, not so much local, that they resonate with emotionally, or they trigger them, or they say something they don't like, or you know, there's something that, whatever it is about their ideology or their plan or their system, they don't like it. You know, in Donald Trump's case, it was the rhetoric, it was the narcissism, it was the dumb shit the guy said that really triggered them, and they really based all of their political decisions and their talking points and their opinions off of emotion, right? So they didn't really know anything about their policies. They didn't know anything about the previous regime's policies. They just kind of know what they're seeing. They're taking everything in stride of what they feel about this candidate or these candidates. So if this guy or woman makes me, or other, makes me feel a certain way, I don't like them. I don't like how they make me feel, right? That's sort of tier number 2 without a whole lot of data. Then there's tier number 3, which to me is the most dangerous place to be. This is where tribalism sets in, right? This is where you do know the policies, at least what's been reported to you. All of the things from tier 2 make sense to you still. You still don't like them for their rhetoric and they make you feel a certain way. But now you're graduating to policies, ideologies, tribes, right? So you're graduating to a certain tribe and how you feel about this person or that person. And inevitably over time, as cognitive dissonance kicks in and biases kick in, you end up gravitating towards certain people depending on what you've been brought up and taught your whole life, whether through the universities or through grade school, your parents, all these different things. You have these ideologies that have been planted in your brain. So you now enter into a whole new domain of adding a layer of ideology and tribalism. And when you decide to join a tribe, in other words, my side versus your side, it's kind of like team sports, right? There's a tribalism that kicks in that is so powerful, and the bias gets so strong that you can't really get away from it. It's just when people decide to be tribalistic and you form your own tribes and you join a tribe, which I think is, and we'll get to the other two factions in a minute, but to me this is one of the most dangerous places to be, because you are unwilling to hear anything from the other side of the equation. You have decided, based on the ideologies that you've been taught and brought up with your whole life, you've surrounded yourself with people with the same ideology. You only choose to watch content with the same ideology. Your feelings are largely at play. I didn't even see that. What's up, dude? Rage Against the Machine. Fucking killer band. Can we talk about them for a minute? Rage Against the Machine? It should no longer be called Rage Against the Machine. This, you know what? Man, motherfucker. There's the exact point that I was trying to make early on in this, man. These types of people, these bands, Rage Against the Machine is no longer... Have you looked at what's going on with Rage Against the Machine lately? They aren't Rage Against the Machine anymore. They are totally in support of the machine. It's mind-blowing to me. Anyway, you diverted me. Appreciate you. Pointed stick. Glad to see you comment. Appreciate you. But, so, tier 4. Centrist. Right? The person that goes, I think that person's full of shit, but they got some good points. And I think that person's full of shit, but they got some good points. But I'm able to criticize them both or agree with them both, right? This is centrist. This is what I call stage 4. So you graduate to the point where you go, I'm no longer part of a tribe. I'm not doing this tribe shit. I'm not signing up for a tribe. I'm not, indoctrinated into this tribe. Here's how I feel. Here's my points of view. My attitude is now coming out to the forefront. This is how I feel. And that's now coming out to the forefront. It has nothing to do with just being part of a group or being part of the movement or being part of this or being part of that. It has everything to do with what you feel like, and in realizing you're able to sort of evaluate each side of the equation and what works for you and what doesn't, not just blindly listening to what everybody's telling you. That's, to me, centrist is the ability to critique even the people that you would support. Right? You critique when they fuck up and they sound like an asshole, you can say you fucked up and sound like an asshole. When they have good points, you can acknowledge that. All of these things, there's certain people out there, particularly in social media, that do not possess the ability to do this. They cannot say, it doesn't matter how poor an argument their particular tribe makes, they're going to back it. So when you graduate to centrist, you're able to say, you know what? That doesn't make any sense, and they're full of shit, right? That's kind of the graduating point to me. And then there's the final stage, which I would call like the grand poobah. It's like you go into law school, pass the bar, you're done. You graduated, you're done. And that is the realization that in general, zooming out, light year point of view, that all of these people are full of shit for the most part, right? They're politicians. It's about power, money, control on both sides of the equation. So you can recognize that all of these people are full of shit. And what I'm now after is points of view that make sense to the greater good of what makes factual sense in this country of where we're supposed to go. And it's very, very hard for people to get there as far as I can see. Like everybody that I've encountered that's a total tribalist, you cannot talk to these people. You simply can't talk to them because they're so indoctrinated with their beliefs that it's like playing tennis with a brick wall. Like, you're never going to win. You're just going to hit the ball back and forth, right? So there's these levels to this thing, and I feel like that level 3, that tribalist, unable to criticize your own party or your own ideology or your own camp or your own group, is like one of the most dangerous places to be in my opinion. Particularly like with now what's going on in politics, like you got to be able to criticize all of it. Like, and the people that I know that even supported Trump are able to go, the guy was a fucking narcissistic a-hole for a large point of the time. Like, you got to be able to criticize this guy and say, look, his rhetoric was shit poor. His speaking tone, the things that he said, his filter sucked, right? There's many times where he shouldn't have said this. Granted, you know, with the media chopping up the stuff that he did, that's fine. But, like, dude, you got to know better. You got to know better that you can't say this shit. You're in the public. Like, if anybody, that guy should have known better. But the narcissism takes over and he can't control himself. And that's all fair points. But it's got nothing to do with political regime and where the country is going. And when you look at what's going on right now, I find myself totally mind blown that the average person does not seem to grasp what's going on here, where the direction of this country is heading, between the censorship, the overtaking of, your opinion's not allowed here, so we're going to cancel that. It doesn't matter whether you're left, primarily right, but you're not allowed to make that statement. You're not allowed to use this platform to make that statement. And of course it works for the people that are honest, within a certain tribe. It works for them, of course. But if you're not in that tribe, like, they're coming for you eventually, And this is the thing that blows my mind, is that they don't realize, like, eventually they're coming for you. It all sounds like fun and games right now. Our team's winning. It's great. It's not great. None of this is great. The shit that's going on with audits and all the stuff that people are overlooking and want to say they're hiring garbage. It's tragic that human beings can't find a common bond. And here's the reality. Old school liberal Democrat George Carlin made one of the best points as I was growing up as a kid watching him, and said, look, man, it's a big club and you ain't in it. And that's reality. None of us are in it. It's the elites versus everybody else. And I feel like the sooner everybody is to get on the same page and realize that, the better off everybody will be. Once you realize, man, like, and I got notes here. I wanted to talk about the stock market, because some of these things that equate to what's going on in the stock market and the awakening that's happening with people from all sides of the political spectrum when it comes to the stock market, the meme stocks and all that crap, that are aligning on these things, but then not aligning on them politically. It blows my mind, because it's like, you don't realize this is all the same group. The stock market is part of that team that is not on your side. And there's a bunch of people that have been watching going on in this environment where, they seem to be more conspiracy theory minded when it comes to their own shit, their own money, their own stuff. But when it comes to politics, no, that can't be true, right? Like, so in other words, the Supreme Court could lie about, fraudulent goings on in the stock market, but when it comes to the election, no. Like, Supreme Court would never lie about that. It's just like, you're waiting for people to graduate to that tier 5, right? Where you just realize, look, this is a big conglomerate group and none of us are in it. And if everybody of every race and nationality and creed and age and background would come together and go, look, man, if you are middle class or working for a living or trying to do the best you can in life and raise a family and all this different stuff, if everybody in that position, which is the mass of this country, would come together and go, it's us, whether you're black, white, Puerto Rican, Asian, anything else. Everybody would come together and just realize, look, man, it's that class of elites versus everybody else. And the rest of this shit is all manipulative behavior. Everything is through manipulation. Somebody trying to get you to think that you're not good enough, or that this is holding you back, or this is holding you down. That shit drives me nuts, because I know, I interact with people on a daily basis that are of all different backgrounds, and if you're in the same position, it really doesn't matter what your race or ethnicity or creed or color or background is. Like, if you are part of that class group, you're not in the group. you're not in the club. You know, you're just not in it. So, that shit drives me nuts. It's something that has been going on for a long time and it continues to get perpetuated. Another thing I'm going to touch on briefly that is fascinating me lately is this. Can't believe I'm going on this path. The UFO, Tic Tac, UAP, you know, sighting phenomena that's going on right now. I know there's been a lot of stuff that has been discussed about this. The videos got released through the Look, Mike Turber, who is a part of this community, got called out on some stuff through the Hidden Truth show with Jim Breslow, and he lied on purpose, and he was trying to get information out of people, and then said he was doing a social experiment. And I listened to this whole thing, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, like, this is why it's so hard to get accurate, legitimate information, right? Where you go, how do I know? Like, who am I supposed to trust here? And I listened to all this going on over the course of, I don't know what it's been, the last 2 years. And I'm just like, has anything really changed? Like, nothing's really changed. There's been sightings, there's been videos, there's been content, you know, right? All this content, all these videos. And you got people still lying about it, making stuff up, making fake videos. I follow channels that put up videos all the time where you're like, well, that's clearly fucking fake, right? That thing is ridiculous. And you watch these videos and you think, yeah, okay. Or is that really the case? But it rarely like goes to the point of thinking about the deeper issue of how insane the galaxy and the planets and the magnitude of all that shit is. Like, nobody ever talks about that. They're just like, well, it could be aliens. Nobody actually gets into the details of, you know, I wonder if a lot of these people that are speculating on this stuff actually take the time to research, like, the unbelievable vastness of what is going on out there with this spinning ball of water and land in the middle of nowhere that's just spinning around a star somewhere, and the shit blows my mind. But I do find it very curious that the sightings and the videos and the uploads have gone through the roof in the last couple of years, particularly with the uploads of the U.S. Navy and everything else. Everybody's now uploading UFO videos. Probably 3/4 of them are fake. You got, Air Force pilots talking about, oh, we've seen these. I'm not mistaken. I know what I saw. I'm a trained person. You got people like Mike Turber saying they're spoofing technology, but originally said they were our technology, and all this different shit. And it's mind-blowing. Like, the times that we're living in are absolutely nuts. But I've found myself going down a rabbit hole of listening to crazy UFO conspiracy stories. Just when I was young, I did a bit of that. I found myself going back down that rabbit hole to see, like, is there any validity to any of this shit? Is there? And the reality is, there's no hard evidence. There really just still to this day, like, despite the video, there just is no solid evidence or factual evidence of this shit existing. Like, you would think you'd have, like, there's no public records yet of weird materials discovered that are outside of the realm of this planet. There's not any, definitive evidence of little green men. There's no definitive evidence of actual craft, like, recovered and worked on. Like, the shit is really frustrating, but it is fun to go down the rabbit hole of looking into this stuff, because shit, if you got an open mind, it's all fascinating. It's all fun. The other thing I wanted to talk about was, I kind of touched on it with the stock market, and how can I preface this with communities on YouTube and communities that form around certain topics on YouTube. Obviously, this community that my name and channel is still in, the Las Vegas shooting community, you realize over time, and I knew this before, that these little communities pop up all across YouTube and in different areas. And it's kind of fascinating to watch the progression of people forming and coming together and forming a group, and then them getting really mad at each other and then fighting with each other, and then the whole thing fucking blowing up. Like, it happens every single time. So I mentioned the stock market community earlier. And I got sucked into the AMC and the GME and the stock market, the meme stock thing, and it's us against the establishment, the hedge funds and all that. I mean, I like the idea of that, and I started following it back before December of would have been 2020. And, an entire community formed around these two stocks. And quite honestly, individually, they formed around GameStop and they formed around AMC. And I found myself being a part of these communities just based on my interest in doing that. And, in that community, they call things DD, or, due diligence, in terms of doing research. And I thought all the parallels to a community like the Las Vegas community, they're all the same, right? Like, everybody is out there doing their own independent research. They share it with each other. And then hopefully the people that are out there gain something from each other by each person's independent research. But then along with that, you also find that there's crazy people in the movement, right? There's crazy people that are speculating about shit that is totally unsubstantiated. It's total conspiracy theory. They put out facts and information that is completely wild speculation, doesn't have any fact basis whatsoever. And I find myself just realizing, like, this is human psychology. This is never going to end. Like, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You could be investigating a crime. We're talking about the stock market here. It could be politics. It could be this. There's always going to be these, communities that form. And it's amazing to see how in the beginning, everybody is so together. They're all up in each other's business. And I got this shit on the screen here. I got to get it off the screen. They're all up in each other's business. And then all of a sudden, negative information starts coming out. People start attacking each other. Somebody says this person's putting out what they call FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And all of a sudden they're like, oh, this is bullshit, and this person's trying to derail the movement. It reminds me so much of what was going on here. And it was enlightening to me because I'm like, man, this happens everywhere. This is just human psychology. There's nothing you can do about it. This is what people do. And you'd be fortunate in movements like that and in communities like this to find the few gems, right? The few people that you can have honest conversations with, good or bad, disagreements, all those different things, and you can possibly get somewhere productive. But man, over the course of the last few years of some of the communities that I've sort of trickled into, I've just realized, man, it's not just about the tumultuous nature of not having information from somebody like LVMPD or FBI, or you didn't get this kind of, you did the FIT report, or you didn't get these kind of reports. It doesn't matter if you're speculating on information in any domain and psychology comes into the mix. You got a bunch of people trying to get together, and there's always going to be a few solid gems and a few people in there that you really want to stay aligned with, that have critical thinking skills, that don't get mired in all this bullshit. And then the majority is going to probably get mired in the bullshit. And then there's going to be the few on the outside, on the other opposite side of the spectrum, where you're like, man, that's really out there. I don't know if I can co-sign on that, right? Like, just fascinating to watch all that go on. It just was really enlightening to me to see that going on. But more interestingly, that particular movement or community really brought, these things that bring people in from all different ideologies and backgrounds and political spectrums and all that different stuff. To me, that's like what we are missing. There's just not enough of that. And to me, like with the Vegas thing, in the beginning, not so much as it trickled down and the drama started forming, but in the beginning, man, these are the things that bring like human beings together. You don't care about politics and ideologies and who you voted for and what you believe in, and nobody cares about that shit because like that human element in the beginning of when these events happen or when a movement happens and it brings people together, people are so quick to forget why they bonded together in the first place. And what ends up happening inevitably with human nature is all that other bullshit gets in the way. Like it always gets in the way. It always infiltrates. It always works its way in. People start forming teams. People start going after somebody else. And that initial nucleus of why everybody got together in the first place is totally lost. Gone. And that's always mystifying to me. Like, it happens with everything. It happened with 9/11. I mean, think about how everybody was so close and got together on 9/11. And then as time goes on, now we got to start arguing about, like, okay, then this faction forms. So, no, we're taking away our rights because they're scanning us at the airport. And this group forms of, racial against Muslim crowds. And it's crazy. But in the moment and in the immediate aftermath, everybody is totally united as human beings. And I know that sounds out there, and I'm talking from a macro perspective of like, look how fucking small we are on this planet floating around out there in space, right? Like, but I've been thinking about a lot of that lately, and just how pathetic it is that if you were to zoom out and realize how fucking small we are, like we are so small in the context of the grand picture. And nobody seems to give a shit. Nobody cares. Like, I don't care if I'm small, I need my raise. I don't give a shit if I'm small, I want my, Amazon package. It's unfucking believable. I'm sorry I haven't been paying attention to the, That's right, dude. My dude. Thanks for coming, man. I just got your email. I'm going to speak to you directly because you are the only one in here, and I appreciate you. I just got your email. I don't know if you saw the response. I got to read it, man. I don't like to skim, and I sent that response just because I'm like, I got to actually sit down tonight and read that email. You want to come on and talk? You're welcome, bro. If you want. It's been a long time. I went and watched your last night. I haven't even logged on to this channel, to be honest with you, in such a long time. I was watching the LVS review video you just did. I gotta give you credit, man. I mean, nobody else is doing that. I understand why people think it's dead and whatever, but I don't know. You know how I feel about you, dude. I always loved your really candid point of view, and I think nobody else is doing it. So, credit to you for doing that. Well, shit, if you don't, I'm just going to sit here and yammer to myself. Pointed stick, it's been a long time. I don't even know if I can work this shit anymore. Well, why don't we? Because no one's watching anyway, right? You want to do it? You can update me on what's going on with Vegas. That would actually be great, to be honest with you. Because if you got new stuff, I would actually love to hear it. But nobody's fucking watching this. Why don't we fucking do it? Nobody cares. We're not going for views, right? Let me drop the link for you. If you're not working, that is. Last time, it was a long time ago. You were always working at night, so it was hard to have you. Oh, look, somebody else is watching. It's all right. I joke. I kid. I joke. It's been a long time, I know, man. It's hard to maintain a channel when you're not grifting, When you're not trying to make money off of people and build a career out of that, that's why I made a channel called Intermittent Breakdown, where I was trying to say that's what I do. It's going to be intermittent. Sometimes way too intermittent. Sometimes like years in between. But I'd love to have a chat with Pointed Stick, man. We had good chats. back in the day. I think he's just raw as shit, and I love him for it. So if he comes on, we'll see. He's always welcome. Been a long time. I got to figure it out, though. I haven't done a live stream like this in a long time. We shall see. He's we got technical difficulties. You know what happened is I got the old operating system. So what's gonna happen is I'm gonna update my Mac OS. I'll be on with you shortly. But at any rate, we're gonna see if he gets on, and then your boy Dan here is gonna see if we can throw back and figure out how to get his audio and all that shit, because I am going in totally blind. I haven't done this in so long, so we're gonna see if we can make that happen, and we'll have a chat, because I know Pointed Stick's been looking at just with super velocity looking back into the Vegas stuff, and nobody else is. And I understand why people are saying that, oh, you know, Vegas is this and Vegas, and we got our answers, you know, and maybe some people do. I mean, I have my answers on certain things, but I'm not quite certain that every answer that was to be had is had. So I'm going to ask him about that and see what he's got going on if he gets it rolling. Maybe ask about what the most interesting parts are about that, and see what's going on. Otherwise, I could ramble on for another, you know, I can ramble on for hours about what the fuck is wrong with this country right now, because that's, everybody knows that, but who wants to hear that's depressing, right? We'll see. What we do, I feel like, is like, fill, Dan, fill some time. What else did I have on my list? Let's see. Oh, I did have Freedom Phone. I could get into the rant about the fucking Freedom Phone. And everybody's all up in arms about. Maybe we'll talk about that. I feel like starting a channel that says like, oh God, I got a notification. There he is. He's somewhere there. We're going to admit him.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, we're going to admit him. Let's see. We got to make sure I have your audio.
Okay.
I got to put your headphones on there. Who else is there anybody else in this chat? I'm going to confirm that we can hear you. DA, can you hear Pointed Stick? Give me a thumbs up if you can. I can hear you. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's right, but how have you been, man? It's been a long time.
I'm good. I'm doing good. Doing all right. Surviving.
Is it work still going good and stuff?
Yeah, work is kind of crazy, but you know, it is what it is, man. It's a lot of business. It's been busy, but this sorry, man, it took a while. I had to update and stuff.
Yeah.
So
it's been a while.
Took a little bit of time for me to update the app and all that good stuff, and then it didn't want to work in a browser.
Right.
So I had to figure all that out. So that was a little bit of a pain. That's why it took a few minutes here. But yeah, I was saying in the beginning, man, when you were talking about, all the music and stuff. Mm-hmm. Isn't that fucking crazy? Like,
isn't it? Well, because you grew up with that punk rock stuff. You grew up with that same stuff, right?
Oh yeah, hardcore, man. I had a green mohawk. It was a foot and a half at the end there, man. I couldn't drive a car. I had to ride a bus everywhere. Mm-hmm. That was fucking crazy. And now, it's kind of fucking depressing that the most punk rock person out there was Donald Trump. Jacked up. That's jacked up. that sucks, man. The most anti-establishment person out there is a rich billionaire. That's fucked up, man.
Well, Rage Against the Machine. How about Rage Against the Machine?
Oh God. Well, honestly, I never liked. Well, I liked them as a band, but Tom Morello, wasn't his mom like head of the FCC or something for a while?
Yes. Yeah.
So he's running around talking about how anti-establishment he is, but at the same time,
it's crazy. They've all flipped. And when I was a kid, dude, I was into skateboarding, punk rock, fucking, you know what I mean? Like everything was, and that was like classical liberal shit. If I would have said what I was when I was younger, it was classical liberal, person. But they seem to all flip. It's nuts. I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone, but you know what I mean?
I agree. Yeah, I don't understand. I don't understand how the punk rock movement got taken over that easily.
Yeah,
I just don't get it. And Breck Gurewitz at one point, from Bad Religion, in the beginning of all this shit, he went out and put a thing out there. And I got in a big old thing on this on Facebook, man. I got fucking slammed and, kind of huge fight and banned from a bunch of groups for this shit. But, that motherfucker came out and said, if you don't support BLM, then you're not punk rock. I'm like, if you have to tell people what it takes to be punk rock, then apparently you're not fucking punk rock. And, I don't have to believe anything. And then that caused a shitstorm. And then, amongst a lot of those guys, the guy from that puts on that punk rock bowling, Sean Stern, I got a big old argument with that dipshit. And, he got mad about Casey Royer. Casey Royer put up from DI. Casey Royer put up a thing saying, he put up Kim Klacik's original commercial where she was walking through
Baltimore,
her district and trying to and all that bullshit. So he put that up, dude, and Sean Stern came out talking shit, and everybody came out talking shit, and Sean Stern and that guy were friends when they were young, and I'm like, man, you guys are fucked up, and he's talking talking all his trash, and I'm like, dude, you're claiming all this anti-establishment, you had the BYO, the Better Youth Organization, which you're claiming that you're helping the fucking kids of the country, but then at the same time you're kind of condoning them running around throwing bottles through fucking Starbucks trying to burn them down. That's stupid. You're a fucking idiot.
Right.
And of course, I got banned from all kinds of shit for that, but it's just,
but he's got
a fucking idiot.
You gotta feel like somebody like me, like coming from that environment, which was polar opposite. It's like the Twilight Zone, man. It's like everything is flipped polar opposite 180 degrees. Like when I was young, it was the other side that was pushing for everything right now that people are bitching about, right? Like whether it's free speech, whether it's anti-establishment, all that shit. Like it's mind-blowing to me because
it is. It's totally reversed.
And you said that and I know that you're not. You don't really identify. Last time I talked to you, you were like, "Well, I don't identify as whatever, political party."
I'm like you. I'm in the middle. I just don't,
like a centrist,
whatever.
Right? Like just
it is what it is.
Yeah, and I just feel like when I was young, like that was the movement. Like you were like, "Oh, Democrat," and I understand why people are still brainwashed with that mentality because that's what used to be. What I mean?
Well, I mean, it wasn't even like with me. It wasn't even Democrat. It was just anti-establishment. Whoever's in charge, fuck them. Mm-hmm. Fuck the system because the system's rigged against us, and they're fucking us at every turn. And I mean, when you're a kid, it's easy because you don't have anything, so it's easy to say all this bullshit like communism. And so I used to laugh about communism all the time and say. All the socialist fucking taglines of, everybody should be taken care of. Everybody, you owe us living for living in your country and all that bullshit. But you grow out of that eventually. And that was just kind of my stupidity as a kid.
I hear it. I mean, me too.
But,
young and dumb. Right?
Yeah, I mean, but that was punk rock being anti-establishment. Whatever the establishment was for, you were against. Mm-hmm. And there was a big, animosity growing up, in the 90s of anti-communism. That Cold War stuff was still, firing down. So, you still had movies like Red Dawn coming out and shit like that. We were anti-commie. But, so back then I kind of got it, man. It was the anti-establishment to be, talking about communist socialism, universal health care, all this, socialist stuff. And then after a while you grow out of that shit. It gets old. It gets burned out. I mean, but now the fucking commies are out there fucking burning people's fucking businesses down. They're promoting, I love the stupidity of this whole social justice fucking thing where, we want to give reparations to people that, suffered from slavery at a time when my fucking grandparents weren't even on this fucking island.
Yeah,
and so, and that's fine if you want to do something like that, but solve the fucking problems that are happening now. You're fucking everybody in this country is benefiting out of slavery that's currently fucking happening in China.
Yeah.
And it's even worse than that. It's not just slavery that's happening there. I mean, harvesting organs, all this crazy shit that's coming out of there. It's stupid. There's still slavery around the fucking world. Nobody gives a shit about that.
Well, nobody wants to talk about that as long as you're getting your Nikes, at the right time. Like, nobody cares.
Yeah, and they only give a shit about what happened in this country 500 years ago before anybody was even fucking alive. So, or whatever. I know I'm misstating that by a lot, but it's just, to me, it's fucking retarded. It's stupid. This whole the whole BLM thing, as far as I'm concerned, this whole thing got co-opted. And I don't think it is what it's supposed to be. I think it's a grift for a lot of people, and then there's a lot of stupid people that are following that grift. And I think a lot of that was taken over by the Democratic Party. When BLM first started, man, they were getting the shit kicked out of them back in Ferguson days.
Yeah.
They had no support whatsoever, man. Those poor people got destroyed over there. And, and now all of a sudden, they're popular, they're in demand, they can't be arrested and all this bullshit. And they're part of this fucking machine. And the people that were started this whole thing are no longer a part of it because they ousted them immediately.
Yeah.
So it's just sad to me. I mean, it's
a total shift from, and the other thing too is that I feel like, love him or hate him. I mean, you needed a catalyst for that to, talking about BLM, you needed a catalyst to make that so, you know what I mean? Like, you needed Donald Trump to say, like, see, I told you, like, here's why. And the white supremacy argument is so it's so mind-blowing to me because I have so many, and growing up where I did and having so many friends that were black and, interacting with black friends that I have all the time. I'm just like, and many of these people do not agree with any of this shit,
Yeah.
Like many of the black people that I know, that I have right in my own neighborhood, I have really cool ass black neighbors, right? They live right down the street. Works at Amazon, really high paying job at Amazon, worked her ass off. Really high position at Amazon. And we actually, what's cool is that we're able to get into a discussion about, like, like she's the kind of person that can have an honest discussion about this shit that we're talking about. And she doesn't co-sign on it either. She's like, I don't want my kids being indoctrinated with this shit because I work my ass off and I work for Amazon and my kids are brought up to think that you can go work and do whatever the fuck you want to do. And why are you telling me that my kids can't do this because I'm black? It's absurd to me. And I don't know. The whole thing just makes me angry, but it really does. Like, honest to God, it's just kind of like, man, if you follow that Martin Luther King thing where it's just kind of like character, like it blows my mind that we're still in this world of like just trying to keep these people down. And it's like, you run into people in your day-to-day life. If you were to shut all this stuff off and just only follow those simple rules of like, treat somebody with their character, talk to them how, your skin color literally means nothing, like next to nothing. You know what I mean?
A person's a fucking person, and if you treat people like that, then, I mean, and that's what I argue with people all the time about that. It's like, there's a very simple solution. Just treat everybody the same. Don't look at, if you don't, as soon as you start to recognize skin color and all that bullshit, then, that puts you in danger of racism, right? And and I think I grew up, around a racist community out here in out in Orange County, they had they had a city called city Huntington Beach,
Oh,
and in the '90s, that was notorious for that. It was notorious for skinheads,
yeah.
and of course, the punk rock scene was just littered with them,
Mm-hmm.
and and they were kind of always seen as the assholes that would come in and just fuck your scene up, but you know, uh, some of these people, I kind of knew them.
Right.
We scrapped with them. We had issues with them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I grew up in a predominantly Hispanic neighborhood,
Yeah, of course.
and the Hispanics were funny, man. Like, I got this friend growing up, and I always talk about him because I actually learned a lot of life lessons from that guy. But he was just kind of the neighborhood badass. He's a Hispanic kid, and he was a kid, and and he was this fucking dude was crazy. He was fucking insane,
Yeah.
and I mean, like literally insane. This guy had issues, and very serious social issues, and so this guy, they would have a good time, and what they thought was fun was to go down to Huntington Beach and fuck with the skinheads, and they
Mm-hmm.
loved it. It was just like a hobby of theirs. And the thing they always told me is they never bring anything bigger than a knife. They don't have guns, so they're
Yeah.
fun to fuck with. And so they would go down and they just start beating up on these skinheads, and of course more skinheads would join up, and before you knew it, you had a brawl out there and everyone's getting arrested, and it was a good time.
Right.
So, we dealt with a lot of that. I mean, I used to always, tell people, and it's kind of, in a way, it's almost true, and it's sad. But I still have my Doc Martens from that I bought when I was 16 years old, and the reason I kept them is because I always say I got teeth marks in them from a real life fucking Nazi,
Mm-hmm.
and and that was because all the kicking people's heads at the fucking concerts when things would get out of control. I mean, and they were dicks, man. These guys were assholes.
No, I
So
believe. Yeah, I know it. Yeah, absolutely.
and there's a simple equation with those guys is, one on one, they stop the white power shit and they say white pride. That was always the cop out was, oh, I'm just proud of my, whatever. And you beat them up anyway. But the thing is, when it's one on one, that's what it was. They chicken down. And then, when it was 12 on one, these fuckers were crazy, and that was just kind of the thing. They were chicken shit. And that's the
Right.
way we always saw them. But, yeah, we had all kinds of those problems back in the day, but that was the 90s. And in Huntington Beach, I mean, you want to talk about police fucking stereotyping people. If you drove into Huntington Beach, I think it was 1995, I believe, was the year they did this. If you were white and you had a short fucking hairdo, you were getting pulled over and you were going to jail. And the way they would do it is the cops always carried open containers. They always carried open bottles, in their car, and that was just what they did, and everybody knew about it. The cops were corrupt over there, and so they would pull over every fucking white person because they wanted to get rid of that problem. They were trying to get rid of the stigma they had for being the skinhead capital of the United States. And for a while there, yeah, they busted. I mean, they busted a friend of mine who had nothing to really do with any of that shit. But they would sit there and they throw you in jail. And then what they started doing is they started forcing him into the military. So my friend, to get out of jail, that's what he did. They busted him with an open container driving into Huntington Beach one night, and he ended up in the Marine Corps. And that's just is what it is. So yeah, they were definitely doing some profiling over there. I mean, it was kind of crazy.
Yeah,
But
it definitely existed. Like, it's not like it didn't exist. Like there's no denying that. But at
yeah,
the same time, it's kind of like we're sacrificing progress for. It just feels like everything's going backwards.
yeah,
But anyway, let's not spend too much time on that.
yeah.
Let's talk about Vegas. Let's talk about Vegas a little bit.
Fuck politics.
Because I know, right? Because it's like, dude, it's everywhere you turn. But let's talk about Vegas a little bit because I know you've really been putting in a lot of time.
Well, yeah. I mean,
No, you have. I mean,
yeah.
I really got
Vegas is
detached,
crazy.
and we talked about this a little bit. But I obviously I got detached for other reasons. But I know you've been putting in a lot of work. So let's just talk about what you've been focusing on in terms of, have you just been going back over, just with a fine-tooth comb of the things that people have analyzed, or have you found, what are your things that you found that are really interesting?
Well, like, my ideology with all that was, when Hunter was around, right?
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people don't realize that, we were talking almost on a daily basis, is every other day or so. But the emails were flying back and forth. It was crazy. And what he allowed me to do is be lazy, right? It was a lazy man's game, dude. Because the guy had way more information than I was ever going to have.
Yeah.
So I was capable of just reacting. So he'd send me some, say, hey, what do you think about this? Can you explain this? And that would be kind of the interaction we'd had back and forth. And I didn't really have time to really go through anything else. It was just, oh shit, here's a fucking some crazy shit Hunter just found that. Now I got to go back and, try and figure out what the fuck this is, because this is, because he would find really obscure shit that was like, wow, dude, that's fucking nuts. I can't explain that. And that's really what he was looking for, was explanations on a lot of things. So, when he passed away, originally I was like, okay, I'm done. I don't need to do this anymore. I'm just done.
Right.
And, and then I kind of explained it to you, which I'm not going to go into here, but I was in communication with someone, and they were kind of like, well, you should just keep doing it if, it's what you want to do.
Right.
So, I started going back through things, which is something I always wanted to do. Back in the day, I got a little discouraged because there was somebody, in the community that told me, oh yeah, it's a good idea. Go back through it all, blah, blah, blah. And, and then when the factions started to split, they shit all over me, and I kind of was like, fuck it. I'm not going to do it now. Right. So, I started going over it, and, the idea is pretty much to start from square one and, come back through and just, hit everything, as it's all released, as it was released, and, see if I can, figure out. It's not about like looking for conspiracies. I always thought that was kind of a dumb way of doing things. Mm-hmm. So to me, it's all about, trying to make it make sense. And when it doesn't make sense, figure out why it doesn't make sense or what does not make sense. And if there's an explanation for things and stuff like that. And there's actually, as it's always been pointed out, there's always loopholes. There's always problems. Things that are not going to make sense. And so, I've been going through all that, and, and I started with, the videos and stuff like that. And of course, I was fairly new to this, thing. So some of my streams, I don't even think have volume. But I was just kind of going through looking at, looking at the videos in context of how they were released and how everything was done and all that sort of stuff. And then going through the final report, going through the original, the preliminary report, and then going through, I just started with, the witness statements, which are bananas. And a
lot of them.
Yeah, and it's bananas. It's going to take me the rest of the year probably to get through those. But just the release number 2 of those, it's going to take forever. Yeah. But there's weird things. I mean, of course, you have the deal that's still standing that nobody's ever going to be able to explain, which is the 48-minute drive from Mesquite to the Ogden, when they're saying that he didn't even go to the Ogden, he went to the D Hotel, so 48 minutes to the D Hotel, I guess. Mm-hmm. That's really something you can't explain. And, and the only way I could explain it was like, well, we know he was in the D Hotel. We don't know how he was in Mesquite. We don't know how they have that information. That was always the problem is, and that was the argument towards the end there, with Hunter was how did they figure out, how did they determine that he was in Mesquite, at that time? Because we, the D Hotel, we had video footage according to them. So I'm going to take that as truth that they have video footage of him, and it's legitimately him walking into the D at this particular time. And that time does actually kind of match up with the report as far as, except they're saying he was at the Ogden at the time, or at the El Cortez at the time. But let's say he was at the D in Celio Cortez. Somebody fucked up and did something really stupid in the report, because that report is very stupid when you read it. They wrote it like trash. And so, there's always going to be something like that. But then again, you get into that problem where, what would have been the determination that this guy was in Mesquite at that time? Because, when the night before they're saying cell phone records say he was in Mesquite from 11, and I'm just making this up because I don't remember what the exact times are, but 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. But then at whatever fucking time, all of a sudden we have him traveling to the Ogden. Well, they're not saying that the cell phone record went all the way to the time he started traveling. They're just saying that they had the cell phone there sometime throughout the night. So that doesn't make a lot of sense. So how the fuck do they know he's in Mesquite? What information are they utilizing to figure that out? Are we talking traffic cams? Are we talking something stupid like that? I mean, did someone see him at the 7-Eleven? Is that something I'm going to find in a witness statement somewhere?
And the rabbit hole goes deep, because what you're talking about is, and that's kind of where I went down. And I know Hunter was doing a lot of this stuff because he was really invested in the lock interrogation report.
Yeah.
He was very, very invested in times, and what was going on. And towards the end there, and I mentioned this to you in an email. I said, he was very, I felt like there was and I wish I could remember which one it was, but I felt like there was a video towards the end where it was where my mind started to go, because it wasn't about the mass conspiracy. It wasn't about, this huge, conspiracy that transpired to have this happen, but it ended up being about, malfeasance or knowing on the part of MGM/LVMPD. One of the really interesting things to me in those same witness reports was and I don't know if you probably have come across this, and I haven't seen enough of your videos, but the interrogation of the guy that did the security room, right? The guy that did all the security cameras and was talking about the delays between the hard drives and how they actually went onto the hard drives, and how, this is the same guy that talked about the cameras on the outside of the building, and how, there was this much of a delay. And my thing that I always wondered was, and this is kind of going into the nitty gritty of the details of what do you think happened. But my thing that I always wondered is, was Jesus Campos really up there investigating? I started going down the path, and I feel like Hunter was kind of on this path too, where it was kind of like, did anybody have an inclination that shit was going on with those windows, or something was going on in those rooms well before what we've all been told, right? Was somebody set up there because there was a call that's what I started looking into. I started looking into these timestamps of when, because if you actually look at between Campos and all that stuff of when the dispatch transpires, there's this delay. And once you start learning how they send messages back and forth, some of it was cell phone, some of it was on Mandalay Bay's internal computer system. It's really fascinating to dig into that shit. And I feel like Hunter was really digging into the timestamps of the lock interrogation report, the security, the internal security, the timestamps of when people were sent up there, between calling out messages between cell phones and on the internal Mandalay Bay security system. It was really fascinating to me. So I feel like he was really doing some crazy shit there,
I told you we went there, right? Did you see anything about that? Okay, so
I didn't.
So we went to, we stayed at the Mandalay Bay. We stayed at in what's called a panoramic suite. And so it's at the end of one of the hallways. We were at the end of, I think was the 100 wing. I think we're at the end of the 100 wing. Right. And so at the end of the hallway, double doors, right? So I got everything on those doors. I know exactly how those doors operate at this point, because we fucked with those for half a day. And, and so the interesting thing about that is, and I don't know if you saw it, but we did I had Michelle with me out there, and she did a little thing about that Johanna person.
Right.
Well, before we started filming that, we realized somebody left the door open, right? We were bringing shit in, so we did the deadbolt trick, right? We hit the deadbolt and left the door open, right? And this is double doors, end of the hall, same layout, same plan. And, you know, it was left open. We didn't realize for about 20 minutes because we're like, well, fuck, man, we got here about 20 minutes ago. So, well, fuck it. Let's leave it open. Let's see who comes up here, man. Maybe we'll get Jesus up here. You know, and so we just left them open, right? So in the middle of that video, you know, I stopped and I didn't want to say anything because we're actually in the room at the time. And, you know, you can hear me say, hey, you know what? That is interesting. And I was pointing at the door, and she's like, oh, shit, yeah, I still haven't come up here to, you know, say anything. The phone didn't ring, nothing. I mean, and we left that door open for 2 hours and 10 minutes. Wow. And reading through one of the statements of one of those guys that you're talking about, he says that the way it works, and this is how I understand that to work, is, you know, saying every shift does it differently. They said there is no protocol for the hot sauce alarms whatsoever. It's just everybody does it in their own way. But supposedly what's supposed to happen is after 1 hour, if a door is ajar or if they get a hot sauce alarm and it's longer than an hour. So let's say the hot sauce alarm is, 50 minutes, you know, according to the door logs and during the breach that we see. Let's say that is the actual hot sauce alarm, which I'm not completely convinced, but yeah, I guess, you know, it's possible that's what that was, is the hot sauce when saying the door is open for too long. But I don't know completely if the hot sauce alarm actually runs off of that lock interrogation or if it's a completely separate system and there's a different timestamp as far as, you know, the hot sauce goes. I don't know. And I'll never know that. But it was interesting because, you know, he's saying if the hot sauce alarm goes longer than an hour, then assistant managers start getting notified, you know, and then if it goes longer than 2 hours, then all the assistant managers on shift get notified. If it goes 3 hours or longer, then emails start getting sent to automatically to corporate.
It's like
yeah. So it seems to me like what was going on is these guys don't want it to hit that hour mark because then they got to answer questions for why it's hit that hour mark. And that's kind of the way he described it is, you know, and that makes sense why they would delete, you know, because you think about it, you're the guy, you're sitting down there, you know, this hot sauce alarm goes off and you're looking at your security guards trying to figure out who's on break, who's not on break. They probably have half-hour breaks. You know, and so what you're going to do is you're going to sit there and you're going to give it to somebody and you're going to clear it, right? You're not going to wait for that guy to do it because if it takes him an hour to get up there, then you're the one that has to answer the questions. So you just clear it. And that totally makes sense to me why someone would do that. You know, because I know that was problematic for a while. And, you know, so that does totally make sense to me. But I'm sitting here in this room and I'm like, shit, man, we left this thing open for exactly 2 hours and 10 minutes. That's when we closed it because we're like, fuck it, we're leaving anyway.
Did you just leave the deadbolt like resting against the door kind of thing?
Yeah. And the other thing that's interesting about those doors, right, is I remember, you know, everyone's trying to figure out, you know, how it's possible that this guy could have solo by himself done that 933 door open from the inside while somebody was outside in the hallway with both doors closed. Those doors. Now, the credit card and the door thing, I never really bought that because there is no evidence saying that would cause the door to be closed, you know, because the tongue gets pushed in. I'm guessing that is where the connection is made that the door is closed, but I don't know because nobody's ever been able to explain exactly how these doors operate as far as, you know, even Hunter didn't even know this, you know, as far as what exactly dictates that.
He found it. He found the massive discrepancy there, though.
Yeah, that's the biggest one that points to more than one person. So the, you know, so those doors, the a couple of the things that were going around at the time was, you know, the credit card and the door. I don't buy that just because, you know, I have a feeling, even though I can't prove it, but I don't know how else it would be possible that door is dictated as closed when the tongue goes into the strike plate. But, you know, who knows? I could be wrong on that. And then, you know, and then there was the, I think 10 put out a thing, right, where he had French doors in his house, you know, and he's pushing open the French doors because he unlocked this, you know, the dummy door. You know, and he locked the main door, and they just pushed them open. They opened up. It's like, oh shit! Well, there's a possible solution, man. That's actually a problem.
Right.
So when I was out there, the way those doors operate is interesting. They're automatic. They have automatic locks. So when you unlock the main door, the dummy door is free floating.
Yeah.
And then when you close the main door, the dummy door automatically locks the bolts up into place, up in the ceiling, up down the floor. So there is no mechanism for you to manually unlock that dummy door,
right,
at all whatsoever. So that is not even a possibility. So that was interesting to me. I mean, that was something I was kind of curious about.
Well, and when he put out that theory, like I was trying to think of the ways, because that was Mr. Visual, right? The credit card thing. And
yeah, I think so.
And I went down the path of thinking, like, what are the ways that you can open a door from the inside without, triggering shit from the outside? I thought, well, you could tie shit to the inside door handle, slip something underneath the door, open it with a string. But all of these things included, whether it's credit card or whatever, this guy was massively fucking around up there. Like, he was actually trying these, like, and that's what's most fascinating to me, is this guy in that little quadrant was trying all these things out. And of course, like, none the wiser to anybody else there. Like, he was like, and that the whole reason when Hunter originally did that lock interrogation report, the entire reason I ever did that animation video that I did was not try to capitalize on what he was doing. I needed to wrap my head around it visually, because what Hunter used to do is he was really good at data. Like, so he was so good at data and saying, like, this time. And I was reading this and I'm like, I get it, but I feel like the average person that's reading this, like, they can't visualize what's happening here, right?
No.
So, like, I needed to do that for myself to see, what is he talking about, And once I was diving into that, I was like, this is a fucking problem. Like, right here where this happens, it is a problem because of the timestamps. But there's all these unknowns about, how, what is the discrepancy between times of logs with these door codes, like. But I feel like he was on the right track in terms of really diving into that, because what that is negligence or malfeasance on the part of MGM or Mandalay Bay, and knowing more that was going on before whatever we're being told. That's my stance. If I had to say, what do I think actually happened in Vegas? I think there was more that either they knew or should have known, whether it be the camera crew people, Jesus Campos. I feel like there was more to the story of why Jesus Campos was sent up there in the first place. That's always been my thing. Because, I mean, I'm just going to say this. How the fuck, and I don't want to tell the story about when I was in Vegas, but how do you break out windows, okay? And if I'm not mistaken, there was almost a 10-minute gap, right? Like, how do you break out 9-foot tall windows? At a place like the well, I know that, but I'm saying, how do you break out 9-foot tall windows or whatever they were? I forget now, but with a hammer, of course. But, like, how do you do that without? Just fucking with you. Yeah, of course. But how do you do that without nobody reporting, right? Like, it seemingly went that he broke out these windows way in advance of the shooting, right? And the story was that Jesus Campos was sent up to check on these SOS alarms, hot sauce alarms, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, what if he was sent up there? Like, what if the reality is that he was sent up there because somebody knew somebody was fucking with those windows, but they never wanted to release that? Because
they heard some drilling, as he's putting up the stupid L bracket or saw him walking around the hallway with the drill or something crazy like
because
that.
Because that sort of implies negligence, because you let that go. Like, you didn't dispatch your people. And so my thing later on, beyond all the bullshit and the helicopters and all that crap, my thing ended up being, why was he up there? Was it really because of this hot sauce system, which is very typical, by the way, like in Vegas particularly, but in all hotels? Like, was he really up there for that, or was he up there because they had an inkling that something was going on with those windows? Because everybody forgets about the windows. They just kind of get glossed over in the report,
Because they were never broken, right?
What's that?
Because they were never broken, right?
Oh, yeah, they were never broken. None of them.
That didn't happen. That's fake news.
They were 1/16 broken and one was 3/32 broken. Yeah.
So like one thing that I looked at that I thought was interesting, and I'm not really sure in your take on this, but those are, well, I know you know this, but those are double pane windows, right?
Yeah, yeah.
On 135, he did not break out the whole window, right? So he broke out about
half.
3.5 feet of that. And do you think he broke out the entirety of the inner window?
What do you mean, like the
So
panes?
he had to break 2 windows.
Yeah.
The entirety of the inner pane window. Do you think he broke that whole thing out?
Well, there's 2 panes, the inner pane, outer pane, and argon in between, right? So he broke out. He definitely broke out like both panes of glass, right? The inner and the outer.
Yes. But what I'm saying is, like, okay, so you have about 3.5 feet. You have a hole in, of course, both windows, obviously. Right. But what I'm saying is, if you take those windows as a separate entity, completely, you have the inner window and then the outer window to the outside world. Right. Do you think he broke out that entirety of that inner window before he started chopping on the outside window?
Well, that's a good question. You have to put yourself in that position. I've always thought about that. Like the process of how that went down is fascinating to me, because he had to have tapped that inside window. Like the process of breaking out those windows in general has always been fascinating, because it's not like if like a lot of people have speculated on how you break those, tempered glass and all the different shit. Tap it on the corner, it'll shatter. But that's not the case with those windows, man. They were really rough.
Yeah.
Like
those are thick windows.
They were really thick, and they were really roughly broken. Like that window in 135 was only broken about halfway down, which always fascinated me. The other one, 134, totally broken out. 135, about halfway. So, like, dude, it took some effort to do that. So you got to break that inner pane first, and then you got to go after the outer pane. Like you can't, unless you just, I don't know, that always, those windows, I feel like there's more of a ticket to that people never appreciated. Because there was a lot that took to break those out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's more to that. There's
think
more
about
to that story.
This was a Hunter thing that we were arguing, when he passed. It was how did the hammer, get in 135? How did it land there, in the end, right? Because apparently he broke out 135 first, and then had to go out in there and break out 134. So why did he bring the hammer back into 135? Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Totally.
So I'm gonna tell you this, man. This is what I gave to him, and this is and I think I did say this on one of my videos, towards the end there, one of them, and this is what I told him. And this is what I think actually probably happened, and I think this is why we don't see muzzle blasts. It explains a lot of this bullshit. Mm-hmm. Is I have a feeling, what the way. I don't want to say the way I would have done this because I'm not a psychopath, but the way I see this playing out, possibility, if this guy is as intelligent as they say he is, and it's hard to actually explain this, but, I can send you drawings to show you this, what I'm trying to explain, but imagine he just broke out a foot at the bottom, just a foot, just maybe a foot and a half, but a foot. Breaks out the entire inner pane in 135, because we're talking about 135. 134, he just broke that whole motherfucker out, because he didn't want to probably take the time to actually break out one pane at a time. So instead of just, making himself a little shooting hole, he just broke the whole son of a bitch, because it was going to be too much of a pain in the ass. Mm-hmm. So I'm guessing he took his time, 135, probably broke out the inner pane at some point, and then went back towards the end there. And that could, you're right, that could lead to why Campos was up there, whatever. This is speculation. And so, you break out that inner pane. Now all you got to deal with is the outer pane, right? But if you're looking down at that venue and all that sort of stuff, which that venue is a lot fucking closer than any of those pictures make it look, because I was there, I was on the roof, and from the roof, which is above where he was, it looks really fucking close. Yeah. So at that point, you're like, yes, a 70-year-old man could definitely hit that concert, no problem.
Totally, yeah.
And so this is what I think is a possibility of what happened, right? He breaks out the bottom, let's say a foot and a half, right? He lines himself up just so the only thing sticking in that window, the only thing he can see out that little break in the window is that venue, right? So now at this point, he no longer has to aim at the venue at all, period. Does not even have to look at the fucking venue. All he has to do is line it up. So that venue is lined up with that hole in that window. And now instead of aiming at the venue itself, now he just has to aim out of a 1.5 foot hole in a fucking window. Everything goes through that hole is going to hit that venue at that point. So, you know, I was telling Hunter, you know, this to me is kind of what I always thought, because it was always interesting that he didn't break out the entire window like he did in 134. 134, he didn't seem to give a shit. But 135, he kind of did, you know, because he did not break out that whole thing. So to me, it looks like, you know, broke out a little piece of the bottom, or broke out enough of that bottom so he could shoot out and shoot into that venue pretty easily. You know, and at some point, of course, he's going to go over to 134. He's going to break that entire window out. He's going to shoot the tanks, and he's going to come back into 135. And at this point, you have people running. You no longer have a small target. You're no longer aiming for just the VIP section. Now you're aiming for everything, right. You know, all over the streets, you know, across the street, everywhere. So at this point now, of course, you're going to have to break out more of that window. That would explain why you don't see muzzle flash. You know, you're not going to see muzzle flash out of a little 1.5 foot hole on a giant 36-story fucking mirror. You know, and, you know, you're definitely not going to see it if he's standing back from the window and he's not actually, you know, right. shooting out the actual window, which I don't think he ever was, because otherwise he'd be standing in glass, bullet casings. I mean, you know, that would just be foolish.
Yeah, and you wouldn't
you know,
need to. You could spray, like the rate of fire he was actually spraying. Like, you don't really need to be that close. Like, you could be standing back for sure, and still hit. Like, and yeah, he really wasn't a good shot, if we want to be honest about it. You know, without being vulgar about what actually happened, it really, like, for the amount of bullets he fired, it wasn't like he was really, you know, a good shot. And that sounds really, you know, terrible to say, but honestly, there was that many shots fired and you hit this many people. That would suggest that he was way further back and just spraying bullets further back in the room.
Yeah, I agree with you, because I mean, you know, and I think when you look at how there were people that were hit in the non-VIP section, right, across from the VIP section. So if this guy was just aiming at the VIP section, yeah, he was a very bad shot, because you know, he was, you know, I just read a thing last night from two people, I believe two of the things I read last night were people that were both injured, both shot, and they're both shot in the opposite VIP section. They were over by the Coca-Cola booth. So, you know, that tells you that, yeah, he was just spraying and praying at that point, and some bullets were definitely going high. Right. You know, but, you know, the thing is, and this is how I, you know, and this hammer is what got me onto this, is, you know, I'm guessing that, you know, he broke that main window out in two parts, you know, and so you had. Well, and
I want to touch on that. I don't want to interrupt you, but I want to touch on this in a second. Go ahead, though.
No, go ahead. No,
but I want to touch on, like, okay, so this is something that's always bothered me, as people have talked about, and again, the windows were a big thing. You know, the biggest thing about the windows was, were they, you know, was this broken or not broken?
Yeah, it's stupid.
But we know, if you actually evaluate the windows, you know there are two panes of glass. So there's a bunch of time where I've thought about, like, okay, so how do you go about doing this? Do you break the inner pane out first? You know,
that's what I'm thinking.
Do you break the inner pane out first and go back to the project later, or do you do this all at one time? You know, like, because literally, if you don't hit that window at the right spot, it's a job, right? Like, there's a huge, and I know there's witness testimony of the glass falling and all that, but why I ask that is because I find myself wondering if this guy was breaking out inner panes of glass on these giant, I think they were 8 feet high. I could be wrong, but
yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. So if
floor to ceiling.
Yeah, floor to ceiling, and they're giant windows. I mean, giant. If they're not, you know, 1/2 inch thick, they're 1/4 inch thick, you know, glass. So, like, do you think this guy prepared enough to, like, just break out the inner, like, he had to have known that these were two double pane glass, right? So, like, I always wonder, like, did he break these inner panes out first while he was in the room, and did nobody know? Like, nobody hear that? There was no kind of sensor, there was no kind of nothing, like, nobody was alarmed that there was glass shattering I always wonder if he broke the inner pane out like in advance, like way earlier on, and then broke out the outer pane. And I know that doesn't seem, like it means anything, but it always makes me wonder, like, there's no way this guy in this short span of time was just like a badger, just breaking out both panes of these glass. Like, I don't know. I wonder how much he prepped for that and broke out the inner pane first to shatter that, and then came back and broke out the outer pane.
Well, I think I think when you're talking about like 135, it seems to me. I mean, I don't know. That's why I was trying to find out through the photos, and it's really hard to see if the entire inner pane is taken out, right? Because that would say that would state that he broke out the inner pane first, and then he went to working on the outer pane at some point when he was ready to do his thing. And 134, fuck, I have no idea, man. Because 134, it looks like he just took a hammer to that thing and just started shattering the whole thing all by itself.
And the whole thing.
He didn't really set that up very well. It's just he just broke out the whole damn window and and just started shooting out that damn window. But the 135 seems a little careful. It seems like he didn't need to break out the whole thing, so he wasn't gonna break out the whole thing. Right. 134, it almost seemed like, well, fuck it. At this point, may as well just do it. I don't know.
Well, I always wondered, like, when it comes, like, and I hate to keep beating up the windows, but to me, it was like a huge point of emphasis, because I was like, imagine this for a second. Imagine you're going to commit this giant crime, right? And you say, I'm going to, there's a process involved. Like, I hate to put myself in the mind of a total psychopathic killer, but there's this huge process that's going to take place. Like, I'm going to do this. So imagine in advance, this guy is, because you got these 2 thick ass panes of glass. It's not just one, it's 2. Yeah. So those panes of glass on those windows are thick as shit. So you can't just smash out the windows, bam, and start shooting. You got to plan for the shit. So I always wondered, like, because we have this timestamp when the guy was in the room, right, for the lock interrogation. So I always wondered, like, did he smash these inner panes of windows out, like, way earlier, like, 9:05 or whatever the timestamp was, and then the idea of that this guy was in his room, in this corner room, smashing out inner panes of glass, and nobody knew this was going on, like, nobody around him in the hotel was like, what the fuck was that? Did you hear that? Like, no, it has to be, and maybe it's not. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not loud and you wouldn't even hear it. I don't know. But I have this feeling that he's like in preparation, because he would have had to smash out those inner panes, get those out of the way, and then go after the outer panes, because they are thick, dude. I have a fish tank at home that's got 1/4-inch glass, and it's thick as fuck. Like, there is no way.
Yeah, I think it's 1/4-inch over there. It seemed like it.
Yeah, and that you gotta like, unless you hit it right in the right place. Like, and that 135 window was shoddy as shit. It was like halfway down. It's all, it looks like it's terrible. I mean, 134 was totally blown out, but that's always fascinated me, the windows, because.
Well, imagine like, I always thought about this, like, me and JB used to argue about this back and forth all the time. Why do you think he picked that window? Like, why do you think he picked those windows that he picked? Yeah. I mean, the one in 135, right? If you think about it, if this guy's going to break out that inner pane, and somebody was talking about in one of the chats one time, why didn't he just tape that whole son of a bitch up, and that way when it shattered as one cohesive unit. It wasn't that big of a deal. But he didn't do that, so.
It seemed very reckless. It seemed like super reckless, right? Like not planned. It was like,
well, he had 134, right? Or he had 134. So he has a sound barrier, to 135.
That's true.
135, he could probably break that window out without too much of a fucking problem. The inner pane, at least, I would think. The outer pane, that's when you start seeing glass fall, and that's when you have a problem. Right. But this guy would have had to be real careful if that's what he's doing, if he's doing this beforehand.
Right.
134, that's why I always say 134, I don't think he gave a shit. I think 134, he went in there and it was a panic, and he just busted out that whole thing all at once.
Right.
You know, just started throwing hammers at that thing and busted that whole thing out. But you know, as far as 135 goes, yeah, I think it's totally possible that nobody would have heard anything, or nobody would have heard anything alarming enough to raise alarms.
Yeah.
Because, you know, he's inside this room. It's next to, you know, this post that's going to block some sound.
Yeah.
It's next to he's got the adjoining room that's going to block sound. You have a stairwell that's going to block the sound.
Yeah, right.
You don't really have to worry about.
No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, you don't have any. You don't have any neighbors.
Which he had to have thought that out. Like that had to be very well. That's why he wanted to move rooms, right? It had to be that calculated. Like
Possibly,
this is the kind of crazy person we're talking about. But the fact that nobody had any inclination that those windows were broken at the time that they were is just always been mind blowing to me. You know?
Yeah, I mean, maybe he had a plan too to somehow block the elevator. You know, maybe he's gonna go in there and pull the fire alarm so the elevator stopped functioning. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know how elevators function, to be honest with you, but I know that will stop it for the general population. But the you know, so there's that. You know, there's the window. You know, the hammer and the windows. You know, to me, it just seems like he broke out that 135 in two sections. He didn't do that all at once, and then you get to like. One thing that I found interesting is before 933, I believe it's 931, he tested two cards on 135.
Yeah.
And if we're to believe that this is a single person doing this, even at the 933 mark where it looks like there's more than one person there, you know, he's in the hallway and he has a card for 135. He has a card for it. He has a card for the exact door. And he never actually would have went into the room at that point because, you know, basically he swiped the card, you know, and they closed the doors. So, you know, he was out in the hallway. And then at 933 is when we have the card swipes and then, you know, the doors open from the inside. But he had a card in his hand that was for that door. Why did you need that door open for you?
Right.
You know, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. You know,
there's all kind of crazy psychopathic testing and craziness going on. That's why I was always so fascinated with those times. You know.
Yeah. So but look back on that 931. To me, I was, as I was going through that, you know, because I went through all this myself, and I know it cheesed a couple people because they're like, why don't you use, you know, the spreadsheets, you know, and stuff like that, and I'm like. Mm-hmm. I don't do spreadsheets, man, because, you know, that's your interpretation of events. Plus, it doesn't give like a human interaction of what's actually happening, which is like why you did your video.
Exactly.
Because I watched that recently.
I need to be visual. I need to see it, you know.
Yeah, so I have to sit here in my head and say, well, what was he doing? Like, what was the game plan here? What was the mind frame going on here? Why did this happen? Not just that it did happen, because, you know, that's what a spreadsheet will tell you. Mm-hmm. But, you know, why are you swiping keys to this fucking door as you're in the hallway when you already swiped those keys earlier in the day? You should know what those keys are, but you're apparently completely fucking disorganized, mm-hmm. you know, and, you know, have some dementia going on or something, you know.
Well, he was trying a lot of stuff. He was trying a lot of shit, you know.
Yeah, it was weird. I mean, you know, but a lot of it, you know, as I go through it, I'm like, okay, I can explain most of it. You know, I can explain the crazy, and I think October 1st Sounds just put out a string of videos there, and he kind of went over some of the stuff, and it was some of the stuff that me and Hunter were arguing about, and mm-hmm. you know, mainly, you know, what was it? It was the panic, right? The panic mode. So, you know, he's out there and he has that problem where he swipes, I think, 12 times on 135 and didn't get in.
Right.
And then went downstairs, got more cards, and then came back up and then you know, swiped and got in. But the interesting thing about that, the crazy thing about that is, like, when you start looking at it and you look before that, he left a Mesquite. Yeah. So that was his return from Mesquite. Right. That he came up and he had the wrong card. Right. But that card had never been used before. Right. That was a card by I think that was the Orpea card. And so, you know, as he's swiping this Orpea card, you know, obviously, I mean, I would think he just got that card. Like, he just got it, right? And there's not enough time, you know, from the footage that we have him pulling into the valet, getting up there and swiping these cards. To my memory, there wasn't enough time for him to actually stop at a counter and get cards. So he goes up there with this card. Where did he get that card? Did he get it when he left? And that was right after, like, this. That whole day is interesting, right?
Well,
Because
and I have to tell you, like, that's one of the biggest attributes that Hunter, dude. One of the biggest things he did was bring times to the table. So
yeah.
I know that, like, all this the bullshit that, like, I wish I would have put out so much more, because, like a lot of us, man, you too, like, I was doing all the research on all angles of Las Vegas, right? But I only, the videos I put out were only on the stupid shit, debunking dumb shit about helicopters, right?
Yeah.
But all of us that were interested, like, we actually we know this stuff, right? Like, we know the times, we know the lock interrogation, we know all this stuff. If you actually invested your time, right? And one of the things about Hunter is that he had his data with the times down so pat, where I was watching some of the shit he was doing, and I was like, okay, how long does it take you to get from the lobby? Like, this is what I started questioning when I looked at his data. I'm like, how long does it take you as a 68-year-old man, however old he was, to walk from the lobby to the hotel, to get up to your room and walk down that hallway? Like, and so I always wanted to go to Mandalay Bay, which I've been there, but not after the shooting. Like, I always wanted a time, like, as a younger person, how long does it take me to walk by this gift shop, get in the elevator, go up to the 32nd floor, walk down the hallway? Like, that's one thing that Hunter was so fucking good at, dude. He was so good at the data of the times. And he was on to shit with the times that was really intriguing to me. And towards the end there, he really, dude, he was following the right, the right rabbit hole, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, a lot of those times, like, I can send you the videos. I trust you enough to, because the problem is I'm in those videos, and my girlfriend's in those videos.
Yeah.
And actually, the first time I went to Mandalay Bay, that's what he told me. He said, I want you to time how long it takes you to get from the parking garage to the service at Bell Desk, whatever the fuck. I want you to time how long it takes from parking garage to the elevators, which the elevators are on the way, so that's easy. And then, how long it takes you to walk down that hallway. Well, I basically said, I'll do you one better, dude. I'll just make a fucking video. Yeah. And so, you're not allowed to film in casinos. They don't like that. Right. So what I ended up doing is I ended up wearing a Hawaiian shirt with a pocket on it, and I just turned my camera on and put it in my pocket and walked around that whole place.
Right.
And so, that was something we were trying to do. It's like, how long would it take to go from here to here to here to here? And it's like, well, shit, I'll show you, man. I got a video. You can actually take timestamps off of this thing, and you can figure out exactly what's going on with all of that. And
when he did that during the lock interrogation report, like, that was why I respected what he did so much, because I was like, look, I'm thinking about all this shit as he's giving the data, because I know the average person's looking at the spreadsheet going, like, I don't really understand, like, you got this green and this is that, and I never intended to, and I felt bad really back in the day, because I'm like, I don't want to take his, I'm not trying to take credit for what he's doing, but I do also understand that there's a lot of people out there that need to see this visually, and they need to see a clock running, like, and actually when I was doing it, like, just personally editing that thing and putting it together, it was like enlightening to me, because I was like, dude, there's a lot of time that elapses between this card swipe and this card swipe. Like, what the fuck was this guy doing? Yeah,
that's what tripped me out.
Yeah, like a minute and a half between that. Like, what is he doing? And so, like, sometimes seeing that visually is so different than just reading the timestamps. So I just feel like he was onto, and then, like I said, he was onto some stuff, way later in the game. And his intention was going after Mandalay Bay or MGM. Let's just call him MGM. And he was really, really diving into that. And if I had to put a umbrella statement on who I think is where you should direct your attention towards, it's MGM to me. Because I feel like there's more known about that they're not telling everybody, right?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I mean, and all the footage and stuff is not there.
Right.
But yeah, I did watch your video. I watched it actually recently again, man. And yeah, it's a trip, man, when you see
The time
because
elapse.
because I never even realized that until I watched you do it. And and even like I think Tall Ace of Spades.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
Ace is Wild. Ace is Wild MMA.
Yeah.
He had a video where it was the shooting. I don't know if you saw that,
Yeah.
but he had a little stick figure of Paddock walking around during the different volleys, kind of showing, what he thinks transpired through all that.
Yeah,
And again,
that guy's an OG. That Ace is Wild. I love that guy. He's been around forever. I followed him
yeah,
from the beginning for sure. He's great.
yeah, he's badass, man. I've
Yeah.
talked to him. I love that guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, he when I saw that, it's the same thing. Visual representation. It's like, okay, there's a lot of time in between some of these little actions here.
Yeah.
But so so that was I forget where we spiderwebbed off of that, because we were talking about the doors and the windows, but yeah, then and like I said, 931 was always interesting to me. That night that we're talking about with the crazy card swipes and all that stuff, and the panic of Stephen Paddock and all that sort of shit, that was interesting, because that was the thing Hunter sent to me one day. He goes, I know you've seen this, everybody's seen this, the 12 card swipes. How do you describe this? Like, how do you think this happened? And it's reactionary. It was easy, because I'm just like, well, the guy swipes card 3 times. Oh shit, something's not working, man. There's a problem, and all my shit's in there. Better get in there. Well, let's try the other card.
A lot of guns.
That card ain't working. Holy shit. Now let's try it on 134. It's not working on 134. Now, I would have expected him to swipe a couple times on 134, but he only swiped once, or he swiped twice, and with different intervals. And, and then he goes back to, 135. Well, let's try it again. Oh, shit, that's not working. Fuck, maybe the other card. Let's try it again. Oh, it's not working. But even though those cards were given out by the same fucking person, which caused me an issue, but you look at the timing on that, it's weird, man. That is the weirdest thing to me, right? So Garzon is came in the night before, right? I think we're talking about the 29th and the 30th, if I remember right. Mm-hmm. So Garzon comes up there, and I think it's like almost 11 o'clock at night. So apparently Garzon was not too interested in whoever was at the concert that night. And, he comes up at 11 o'clock. He tries to get in Paddock's room while he's in there. Well,
yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah. I got to call to kill. Okay. Am I still here? Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Sorry, someone was trying to call me. And so, so Garzon is, gets up there, tries to get in his room. Now, we have a series of interactions there while Garzon is, right before he's trying to get in the room, where 134 is being opened and closed, open and close, open and close. And, and the only way I can explain that is possibly, well, he saw this guy coming down the hallway in the camera, thought, holy shit, who is this fucking guy? And starts looking at his door in 134. And, all that. And then, but then he leaves. Like, he leaves like a half an hour later, I think, after Garzon. I don't remember exact times here, but he leaves like a half hour later or something like that, goes to Mesquite, right? And he comes back with cards by this person named Orpea. And I think at that point, the only cards he'd swiped at that point, the only cards we know he had in his possession at that point, was Jay Wheeler. And that was the person he checked in with the first day. That's the person he also checked in with most likely on the for room 134 on the 29th, because those were Jay Wheeler cards as well. And the Orpea card that he was trying to swipe on this particular day was for 134, and he can't get in there. And this is right after he came back from Mesquite. He's got baggage with him. He's up there trying to swipe this fucking card. Why did he have a card for 134? Where did he get this card? When did he get this card up? It's possible that as he left the room that day, he thought, oh shit, I just left all the cards in there. I don't have a card, so I'm going to get one on the way down. And then possibly went down there, saw this girl, said, my name is Stephen Paddock, and need a card for my room. She ran up room 134, gave him cards for 134, not thinking that he had a second room. And, and this dumb shit didn't, think about it, and went to Mesquite and came back with those cards, because when he came back, he didn't really have a lot of time to actually get those cards at that point. So, then he gets back up there, swipes these cards. Oh shit, they're not working. Things go fucking crazy. He starts probably getting a little stressed out, going haywire. He's probably got a case full of ammunition at this point. And then he goes and runs back down, gets some cards.
Let's do this. So at the end of the day, with all the speculation, and you've been around just as long as I have, so you've seen all the stuff, all the rumors, all the the theories, with all the shit. Where do you stand on what you actually think went down? Do you think, like, where do you stake your investment in? Do you think that it was just Stephen Paddock? Do you think it was a co-conspirator? Do you think it was, and let's not get into the other nonsense stuff, but where do you put your head at in terms of what you think, where you think the problem is, in terms of where to focus the energy? Because I really do feel like Vegas was kind of told to people, here's what happened, here's this guy, here's what he did, and it just went poof, gone. But if you had to say, like, with all the conspiracy theories and all the shit, where do you think that it stands? What do you think went down? Do you think it was just Stephen Paddock? Do you think it was, where are you at in your mind?
I think the hardest part of this whole thing is you got three different factions. You got the MGM, you got the FBI, and you have the LVMPD. I think the LVMPD, want to do their job. I think, and everyone's going to hate this, but I think Lombardo was actually trying to do his job. I think Lombardo got sidetracked by the FBI, who was probably most likely sidetracked by the MGM. So I do think that there's something there with the MGM that is a problem, is an issue. How deep that goes, I don't know. See, the problem is, like, if you had a second person, why not tell people? Why is that not common information? What is the problem? Why would they be hiding something like that? Because that does not have to do with malfeasance on the part of MGM, right? The malfeasance on MGM is what Campos did up there, or what he was doing up there. And I agree with you. I kind of don't believe he is up there for the SOS alarm. And the reason I say that is because he was supposed to check one on the 30th floor, I believe it is. And on the 30th floor, you had a door that was open. When the police got up there, the police woke some old lady and some old man up and said, "Hey, close your fucking door." They were the hot sauce police that night. So, Campos, it is coincidental, I guess. And you can argue that, well, that door was open after Campos went up there. He had another door to check on that same floor, blah, blah, blah. I mean, you can argue all that, but to me, it's very coincidental that, this guy possibly didn't do his fucking job on that 30th floor, even though he's saying that was the last door. You watch the Nightline interviews and stuff like that. This was the end of my night. I was home free after this, and
why did they lock him away for so long? Like, if that was just normal, rudimentary shit that he was doing, why did it need to be so hidden? Well, originally I was saying because you don't want that guy to be the face of MGM. So I still kind of believe that is a possibility. That they looked at this guy and said, this guy's really not that intelligent. This guy's a problem. We can't have him going out and speaking on behalf of MGM, being the face of MGM during this event. I believe that's part of it. But then, there could be a lot more to it. There is no information. And the problem is, like, with the final report, they wrote Campos' story. The police department, whoever wrote that damn report, wrote Campos' story. It's fiction. Campos did not write that, because that is not what is stated in his statement whatsoever. There's way too many discrepancies for what Campos said versus what the final report says. Even with what Ellen was saying, when he went on there to his face. That was crazy. I mean, you forget, time goes by so fast, you forget how manufactured that seemed to be. It was the only interview given, and it was super awkward. I mean, that interview was awkward no matter how you slice it. It was just, you had it almost seemed like you had a handler there. The other guy. Like, we heard this guy, he was on, we've heard from him, but at the same time, he was, like, basically holding his hand. Like, hey man, Jesus is gonna be
Yeah.
okay. Like, just tell your story. It's very, very odd, you know.
Well, I mean, I can argue that, Shuck, originally maybe they didn't want to bring Shuck into this. They didn't want to have any more people up there in that hallway, or at least
Yeah.
admit to it, because
Yeah.
they didn't think any of this was going to get out. It wasn't going to get blown out of proportion in any way. Maybe they just wanted to keep it under wraps, keep it all to Campos. We can control Campos, no big deal. And then all of a sudden, start realizing, well, this fucking guy wants to do interviews on Fox and CNN and MSNBC, and holy shit, we got to rein this fucker in. And then they threw Shuck out there, right? And so, to me, it always seemed like Shuck was the boy. Shuck was the guy that he was going to be the face of MGM. This kid, he's well spoken. We can kind of feed him lines, and he's going to be the face of MGM during this event. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of where I was going with that. But as far as Campos is a problem, man. He's always going to be a problem because a lot of his shit doesn't make any sense. He says he went down.
Let me ask you this, because this is where I've been at for a long time. So let me ask you this. So let's just entertain for a minute in another reality. Let's suppose for a minute that they knew something was going on with those windows, right? I've said this before. Mm-hmm. Let's say they knew something was going on with those windows. And so Jesus Campos wasn't up there investigating Hot SOS. Jesus Campos was up there because somebody said something's going on up on the 32nd floor. Get your ass up there, right?
Yeah.
So I like to imagine a world where there's more knowledge on the part of MGM, where they said, I don't know what's going on up there, but you better get up there and figure out what the fuck is going on. Like, this has been in my head for years. So the narrative is that he went up there to investigate these alarms and all that shit. And they don't really know where it's coming from. Like, they've had a signal where, there's either glass breaking or we've had a complaint. But get up there and figure out what's going on. I've had this theory for years where I feel like MGM knew there was something going on with those windows long before they let on. This is my personal theory. I think that they knew something was going on with the windows being tampered with, broken, etc., way longer before they let anybody else know. I don't think Jesus Campos was up convincingly or coincidentally in that area of the hotel, just happened to be checking out Hot SOS. I think there was more to the story where they knew something was going on up there, and that's why he was up there. Not because there was an alarm going off. Not because there was a Hot SOS. I don't believe that. That's just my own opinion. And I feel like, why was the guy so nervous? Why did they bury this information? Why did they only give him Ellen? Because if MGM and the one employee that knew something was going on, the single guy they sent up there to check it out, knew something more, they have to do everything in their power to suppress that and keep it at bay. And my entire theory is that Jesus Campos was not going up in that region of the hotel to check on hot sauce. I think they knew something was going on up in that region of the hotel. That's just my take. And it's
possible.
I'll die with that. I just think that's what he was doing. I think there was more to that. I think they knew. It's hard for me to believe they did not know 2 giant windows were being broken out or tampered with 15 minutes in advance. I can't buy it.
Yeah, it's it's possible. I mean, like I said, there's some definitely fishy with Jesus, but I've always tried to avoid speculating.
Yeah.
At
that's
some
what
point.
I'm doing.
I mean,
I'm definitely speculating.
You do occasionally. I mean, you kind of have to once in a while go down rabbit holes of theories and stuff like that. But for the most part, I try. Because I don't have all the information, right? So, until I have all the information, I have a hard time, dealing with something like that. But then, someone's been talking to me recently about like 9:59, right? So what if Jesus was shot at 9:59? Mm-hmm. As the original story states he was, and then let's say he's up there, before 9:59. At 9:59 he gets hit, which is 26 minutes after the last door thing, which isn't that much time, so he's up there and he gets clipped at 9:59. Well, that was the original timeline. That causes a huge problem for the MGM, because I read a headline just the other day saying that MGM had 6 minutes to figure this shit out before they and they didn't do anything for a whole 6 minutes, and making them look bad, and that's when MGM refuted the timeline changed. So to me, that 9:59 was very important, as far as I kind of believe more that Jesus was probably in that hallway at 9:59 as opposed to on the other side of that door at 9:59. Mm-hmm. Although they have, if they ever release the elevator footage, the legit elevator footage, not the Nightline bullshit they fed us, that of course could totally blow that out of the water, but they haven't,
Which again, it's problematic. That's problematic. It's not authentic. It's what they chose to release.
Well, it all is. I mean, think about like I told you, in an email. Oh, well, yeah, you said you didn't get through it.
Not yet.
I mean, you can go on MGM. You can go on the MGM Grand. You can go to the Bellagio. You can go to the Excalibur, the Luxor, all these MGM casinos, and you can find exactly who their hosts are online. Their names are there. I believe their phone numbers are even there. You can contact any of their casino hosts for any of these casinos, but we don't have a statement from the host of the Mandalay Bay, which they stated in the report that he used a casino host. He talked to a casino host, I believe it was on the 28th, saying that he wanted a room at the end of the 200 wing with double doors, on the 28th or on 27th. That was 27th, I believe they said that. I can't remember. Yeah, I think it's 27th. It wasn't 28th because that was the original timeline bullshit. But I remember it didn't match with that. And so, where's this casino host, right? This guy would know a lot about Paddock, man. This guy would be down there shaking his hand when he came into the casino. He would have been the guy that set up the room for him, gave him whatever comps he was using, all that stuff. He would know exactly how much he was gambling because that casino host gets paid off of how much he gambles. So he would know a lot. I mean, that's the one guy that would know a shit ton. And we don't have that. Instead, we have, I believe it's, one guy or two guys from the Wynn and one guy from the Caesar as far as casino hosts go. Yeah, I don't give a shit about those guys. Those guys are pointless.
Yeah. It's
then,
it's kind of like fluff. It's all fluff.
And then the people who he interacted with, like we don't have, like if you think about it, we don't have statements from anybody he interacted with other than a couple bellhops and a maid, and the maid's all screwball because she doesn't even know what day she was working. But that's all we have. We don't have, the person at the reception desk, all three of them, because you have a Jay Wheeler, you have a C. Colton, you have a C. Orpia. We don't have any of their statements. We don't have any statements from the person who shook his hand in the casino that we see on the New York Times fucking video. We don't have the people who are at that desk that he started talking to in the high limit room. We don't have the guy that was gambling next to him in the high limit room. We don't have anybody that interacted with this guy in any meaningful way whatsoever. And that's jacked up because he did interact with people, and we see it on camera.
Right.
So that's absolutely ridiculous. So, I mean, to me, it's like, I like to say that, it's all MGM just covering everything up. But, there's something mysterious about this fucking dude. And you could say, maybe MGM had something going on with this guy.
Not even foreknowledge, but just more knowledge.
Yeah, and I mean, but like, a lot of that stuff bothers me because I can get behind, anything with Jesus, being, involved in a different way, not being involved in the shooting itself, but
and not even him. I'm not even sitting here saying like he was directly responsible. I'm saying like my focus started being on MGM rather than, co-conspirator, rather than, some crazy conspiracy. It just ended up being that, look, MGM, if that was to be the case, they cannot let that out. They cannot let that out to the public. Yeah. If that was the case, because their negligence, their negligence is through the roof. They cannot let those facts come out if that was to be the case. Like, for instance, if they knew that something was going on with those windows in advance, like, and they did not set, like, they just said, hey, I'm not sure what's going on, but get up there and figure it out. And that end result being what it was, you know, they sent Jesus Campos, lowly old Jesus Campos, up there, like, hey, go figure this out. Like, they cannot have negligence in terms of legal ramifications. So I always looked at MGM like, oh, we got to look at them a little more.
So what does that look like to you? See, I've gone over this a few times in my head too. You know, what if Campos was up there earlier? Or, you know,
right.
You know, sometime after 9:33. What does that scene look like to you, man? Campos knocking on the door, saying, "Hey, man, you okay in there?" I mean, what does that scene look like?
Well, I don't know if it's like him going up there earlier, but I just feel like, okay, so imagine I brought up the conversation way earlier about the inner pane windows being knocked out way earlier.
Yeah.
So imagine just like live in a space where, you know, whether it's somebody on the floor above or below or whatever, just the slightest little complaint, like, I don't know what's going on, but I heard some shattering glass. I find it very hard to believe. These are giant windows. And so I've always considered the point of, you know, if this guy, he didn't shatter both of these panes out right away and just boom, 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 boom. He had a plan for this. So he either knocked out the inner panes first, then attacked the second panes. And I thought, what if he was knocking out those inner panes of glass, either room, right? And somebody caught on to it. And somebody said, hey, they just called down and said, I'm not sure what's going on, but I heard this loud, like, glass breaking. They called down to the office and said, send somebody up. And Jesus Campos was not sent up there to investigate a hot sauce alarm. He was like, something's going on up there. We got glass shattering. They would never tell you that, of course. Like, if that's what he was actually sent up there for, they would never tell you. They would just make an excuse. They would say, oh, there's a hot sauce alarm. So
yeah.
I always wonder, like, it's not so much about Jesus Campos being, like, complicit. It's more about,
I'm not saying that.
Yeah, it's more about, like, MGM having more knowledge ahead of time, like, that they would never be able to tell the public that they knew in advance that there were issues going on with those windows. They could never let that out to the public. You know what I mean?
But
because that's negligence. They would be done if they did that. You know what I mean?
And you have three parts of the setup, you know. So you have the cameras on the cart, you have the bracket on the door, and then of course you have the windows. You know, there could all be you know, problems for Paddock. But you know, if what I'm saying is, if let's say you know, Paddock started knocking out those windows at 9:35,
right?
Knocking out that inner pane of windows. To me, like, you know, what does that look like to you as far as the interaction when Campos actually gets up there?
See, the interaction to me is nothing. It means that there was a dispatch that took place somewhere that nobody's aware of that says, like somebody doesn't know what's going on up there. They've either received a noise complaint or a you know, what, like random shit, like lady wandering around in the backyard, that kind of complaint. Like, we're not sure what it is, but there's something going on up here. Get up here to this wing of the hotel and investigate, right? I always found it very interesting that he just happened to be in that wing of the hotel. Dude, this is a 3-wing massive hotel. You've been there.
Yeah.
It's a massive hotel. So this is a giant 3-wing hotel. And the fact that he just happened to be in that wing on his normal route investigating these hot sauce alarms, okay, has always been a problem for me, because I was like, and again, it's total speculation. I'm just saying, what if MGM was aware something was going on with tampering of those windows way before we've all been led to believe? What does that look like? What I would imagine that looks like is their security person being sent up to investigate what the fuck is going on up there. Because I've been in this position. So my thing has always been, is it possible that they knew way before we've all been led to believe that something was going on with those windows, and you never hear about this? These windows have been suppressed from the original report. It's kind of like, oh yeah, we all know they were broken out. But there's never been any mention of, like, nobody called in a report. Nobody said the windows were being broken. I've always had my doubts about that. It's always just kind of been a red flag to me. And so I've always looked at it and said, if something was going on with the windows before we realize it, what would that look like? And my answer is a security guard being sent up to discover what's going on up there. That would be my answer.
Yeah.
You know? So,
yeah, and then but what I'm trying to get you to is what happens then, right? They send a security guard up. What happens then? What does he do?
He knocks on the door, or he probably doesn't know where it's coming from. It would be my speculation. Like, my speculation is if they sent him up there, they don't know exactly where it's coming from. They have an idea, right? Like, they know it's coming from this wing of the hotel. And I don't know. Like, I'm not getting into sensors on windows and all that shit. But I'm saying if they sent him up, they know approximately where it's coming from. In other words, this wing of the hotel, approximately this floor, right? Or this region of floors. And that's where I go back to, like, why was he so conveniently in that space, right? Where that happened. And what it looks like to me is we don't know where it's coming from. We have a call or a complaint that this is going on, or we have an inkling that this is going on. Get up there, in other words, up there in quotations, like get up there and figure out what's going on. We're not quite sure. It could be the 29th floor. It could be the 33rd floor on this wing of the hotel. Get up there and figure it out. My inclination is just go up there and figure out what's going on. And I know that sounds like total speculation, but I also look at the fact that it's like, okay, you were investigating and I have a cousin that's in the hotel industry. And these open door alarms, these hot sauce alarms, like they're just so rudimentary. It happens all the time. So I always thought, like, why was it so convenient that this guy at that time, right at this timestamp, like right before, was up there? And I always wondered, was he up there because there was more to the story? Was he up there because somebody said something's going on in that region of the hotel? That's just my,
Well, then it was a baby's room anyway that he was checking on, so that's always been kind of strange to me too.
Yeah, but I just wonder about it.
But what I'm trying to get you to is basically, what is Jesus's actions and how does this play out in that scenario? So, he goes up, knocks on the door, starts getting blasted at. Is that where you're going with that? And then he ends up down the hallway. And then we run back into the narrative, or does he go into the does he like you said, maybe goes up 33rd floor, doesn't goes down, tries to get into the 32nd, maybe knocks on the door on the 33rd floor, nothing's wrong up there, nobody's even home, goes down to the 32nd. I would think they would call first, but who knows?
Well, yeah, if you're talking about what's going through his mind, is that what you're saying? Like, where you're trying to get at? Like, where he's
like
going
what are the actions? Like, what do you think? Like, what do you think would have played out? And how would this have played out? Because if Campbell's in front of that door, and he's knocking on that door, unless he's on the let's see, if you're facing the door, it'd be the left-hand side of the door. Mm-hmm. He's getting blasted. He ain't living through that. But if he's on the left-hand side of the door, of course, none of the bullets fucking went over there. According to him, he was in front of door 129 when he was fired upon, which 129 took 11 hits into the alcove, which is pretty fucking amazing.
Yeah, it is.
If you look at, I wish I would have taken, I wish I would have taken a picture, but
it's long. It's long.
Well, no.
Are you talking about down the hall towards the middle?
Okay. So 129, he took a shot at 129. He took he got 11 hits on that 129 alcove on the wall side of the alcove, and you can see in the I believe it's the nightline one or whatever. It's all chewed the fuck up, and so Campbell's was saying he was in front of 129, which was the door he was supposed to be checking anyway, but conveniently he was in front of 129 when the shots started ringing down the hallway and he started running. And so. What I always think about is, how did this play out, right? He's in front of 129. All of a sudden, the shots start fucking coming down that hallway. And, it's going to take the fucker a split second to realize, holy shit, someone's shooting at me, and start jamming down that hallway. And of course, he didn't look at the door right, because otherwise he wouldn't have been saying stupid shit like the guy shooting through the peephole,
right.
and shooting a BB gun, as the door is fucking crumbling in front of him. Right. A lot of that stuff doesn't make sense to me. But, I was always like thinking, what if this fucking guy went up and knocked on the door? And start banging on the door. Hey, man, you okay in there? I'm hearing fucking noises, man. What's going on in there? You all right?
Right.
Door check, some bullshit like that. And fucking all of a sudden, boom, 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 shots start coming through the fucking door, and maybe he ends up in the alcove, in the foyer. Maybe that's where he saw the bride, but, this is all speculation. But, somehow he ends up down the hallway. And, but to me, that's kind of the pivotal point. Like, what did he do when he went up there? Because I kind of agree with you that there's more to this than I think a hot sauce alarm. Mm-hmm. I think a hot sauce alarm is an excuse for the most part. But, so I agree on that. But, what happened? Like, what did this guy fucking do? How does this play out to where it actually makes sense? Because this fucker put a bunch of holes right through that door. Mm-hmm. And, if the fucker was standing in front of that door, he's a dead man. He ain't fucking getting a bullet to the leg. And, so that to me is an issue. The guy shot 11 holes into 129, which is crazy because when you're looking down that hallway, you're looking at an alcove, right? So the alcove's indented, I think, a foot and a half, something like that. I think I looked at it and it looked to me about a foot and a half. So he's got this small sliver of wall that he's trying to hit. Plus, he has a wall in front of it. So when you're looking from the line of sight to that wall, you have maybe 6 inches of fucking wall that you can see from, between those two doors looking down that hallway. It's crazy. It's crazy to me how he hit that many times in that small fucking alcove. But, he did. So can't put much there. But yeah, I mean, but that's what I'm trying to get you to, like, trying to figure out, like, what do you think Campos did when he went up there? And to me, that's always been a fucking question.
We know the story. I mean, we know what's been told of what he did, and I've always just thought, I've kind of rewound back to, why he was there in the first place, right? Like, because you've been in that hotel. I've been in that hotel. It's a huge hotel, right? So I understand this is a process, the hot sauce thing, the doors open, that happens, but it is a massive hotel. With those wings are huge. When you actually traverse that center corridor down the hallways, they're huge.
Yeah, okay? I believe they're 100 yards.
They're huge. Like, when you actually walk down them, like, they're long hallways. So
yeah, they're ridiculous.
Yeah, they're long. So I always found a little bit of it was always just raised a little bit of a hair where I'm like, this guy was just happened to be in that wing. There's 3 wings of that hotel. However many floors. I don't know if it's like up till 4 seasons is 30-something floors. I'm like, this guy just happened to be in this thing on his route checking hot sauce alarms. I just don't buy it. I just feel like there's more to why he was in that particular wing of the hotel. And to your point, what was he doing when he was up there? I mean, it's anybody's guess. We know that he talked about the drilling and all that bullshit. But at the same time, like, do I think the guy, he doesn't strike me as the kind of guy that's like confrontational, knocking on the door like, hey, what the fuck you doing in there? Right? No. But at the same time, it's kind of like, you just happen to be in this wing where this was going on right at the time. And what were you doing there? Was it really hot SOS? And that goes back to Hunter's stuff where, he was talking about all of those, that lock interrogation report and all those timestamps about, and it was more about the actual staff at the time and how they report their times of why they're there, when they close out those hot sauce alarms. Like, that was fascinating to me, because when you start reading through like what you're doing in the actual report, and they start telling you like, oh yeah, we don't always do this through the computer system. Sometimes we text, sometimes we call, sometimes we actually put it in the system. That's fascinating to me, because it means it's like any other job like you and I have. It means that some guy's like, oh yeah, 32, 132, it's covered. Boom, we're good. You know, you could text the guy that. I could text you like, yeah, we're good. And you're like, you put that into the system. So I found that very fascinating. And that's not anything nefarious. It just means that's how they communicate. But I always wondered, like, is there more to why he was there in the first place? And then to your point, what does that look like? Did he, you know, because he talked about the fucking, you know, the L bracket and the door being locked and all that crap. Like, but there's definitely more there to me. I don't know what it is. I'm not trying to get into a conspiracy, but I think there's more there. I think there's more.
No,
info.
I agree with you.
You know, there's more info there for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you. But you're also going off on, you know, coincidental. You know, he's coincidentally up there when this whole thing started. But that is predicated on.
Could be coincidence.
But see, that's predicated on that this was meant to happen at the time it was, and that this was not. That this event did not get sparked off before it was really meant to. You know, that this timing was predetermined. And I don't think it was, to be honest with you. I think that this was most likely supposed to happen towards the end of the event, not at the beginning of this event.
Right.
You know, the timing on when, you know, this 10:05 timing as opposed to, you know, why not 11 o'clock? Why not 12 o'clock when he was getting off stage or doing his last song and, you know, everybody's going crazy, you know, but instead you did it during his fourth fucking song that, you know, just kind of always seemed kind of strange to me.
Right.
So, you know, to me, I've always felt that, you know, this event was not supposed to happen in the time frame that it happened. It just happened to be that way because of some outside interference. And, you know, that outside interference would be Campos, which to me kind of leads credence to what you're saying. So I think Campos was up there. I think Campos did something fucking stupid. And like I said, I'm guessing knocked on the door or something stupid like that. And, you know, and, you know, Paddock freaked, shot at him. At that point, it's go time. We got to just get this done right here, right now. Right. And, you know, start shooting out the window.
Well, I mean, that's fair. That's, you know, that's absolutely possible. But, you know, again, besides the conspiracy theories, I always look at why, you know, might he have been there in the first place. And I'm not saying it's just a theory, you know, like I'm not saying that that's anything valid. I'm just, it's always made me wonder between and that also goes into all the interrogation reports of what he was up there. I think it was the floor below, right? He was going to check out initially, 32, 129 or something like that. I think it was
30. I think it was 30. And I believe it was 30. And then, like I said, that was where the cops actually found a door open.
Right.
So apparently he didn't do his fucking job very well.
Well, and it could be like, for all intents and purposes, it could be totally, that's the way it went. You know, like that's possible as well. But I always found like if I'm going to invest my energy somewhere, it might be that MGM knew something more in advance than they're letting on. Because I'm not going to go down the path of the, you know, the helicopters and the, you know, all that crap. My energy always went into, you know, of course, follow the money. Like MGM cannot let that out. If that was to be the case, they could never let that out because it would bode terrible for their case, you know? So,
yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think two things are very important within all this is the truth behind Campos and, you know, which would tell you a lot and the motive, right? We have the motive, we have everything, you know, we know exactly what happened as far as, you know, why this, you know, whether he was alone, not alone, you know, why this happened, what he was doing up there in the first place, all that sort of bullshit. Mm-hmm. But, you know, I'll tell you, I have a feeling, you know, I mean, it just seems, since it's 9:33 p.m. right now here, that, you know, that he was not alone, you know, throughout that entire trip, he was not alone. And, you know,
well, so is that what you're getting at? So I was trying to get at your master, I mean, it's been a long enough time for you to formulate an opinion.
Well, not really, because, I mean, you know, I'm going through all this stuff, like, you know, once again, trying to get through everything, and I'm trying not to form an opinion until I get through it all. Mm-hmm. But, you know, right now where I stand is it seems like there was somebody else there. There was something more going on than just this guy planning to shoot a bunch of people. Mm-hmm. Not just that, but the internet searches were kind of goofy. The 48-minute drive from Mesquite to the D Hotel is goofy. The internet searches as far as the Children's Museum, the Mob Museum, the Neon Graveyard, some ballpark that's out there, sports complex, along with, I guess there was a gun show at the actual, the sports complex has a auditorium there or whatever. I guess there was a gun show there. There's always gun shows there. So it's possible that's what that was for. He looked up Arizona Charlie's, which is kind of some ghetto shit hotel out there. He looked up, all these things lead me to think, well, who the fuck else was out there with you? When you look up the Child Courts and Service Center, what, are you getting divorced? You're not even married.
Right.
You don't have kids. You don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to shoot up a freaking courthouse. That's a suicide mission itself. Mm-hmm. And you're not going to really do much, damage as far as that goes. So, a lot of these things just kind of lead me to believe that there was someone else there. Mm-hmm. He had someone with him, at some point that seemed to have some problems, it looks like.
Right.
I don't know. It's odd that you look up. And then the Children's Discovery I think it was called the Discovery Museum of Vegas or whatever. Mm-hmm. That thing, he looked it up twice, and that's not really a normal fucking thing. So, as I go through it, I can see a lot of stuff I can make sense out of, right? Santa Monica Pier. Okay. The guy fucking doesn't want to be there during the busy season. He's looking up Santa Monica Beach because his fucking girlfriend's daughter lives right next to it. She lives in Venice, right? Maybe he doesn't want to stay in Venice because Venice has its problems. And so he decides to go to Santa Monica because it's got a nicer hotel because this guy's spoiled brat. I can see that. I can make that fucking work. He looked up schools in Boston. He was looking up Boston University schools for the arts. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, he looked up a school out there in Vegas that was a school of the arts. So who's going to school here? What are you doing? Yeah. The stuff is just, it's very strange. So weird. He's looking up a lot of shit that it looks like, I guess nieces, nephews, I don't fucking know. But
and if he cared enough about them, if he cared enough about his nieces and nephews, it doesn't make any sense. There's a lot of weird things that don't make any sense for sure.
I could see him having company.
Yeah, I could
totally see that. In fact, I'd have a problem saying he didn't have company. Yeah. So that's one thing that I get to. But did that company know what he was about to do? Well, if they were in the room at 9:33, I'm guessing they had to have some clue of what was about to go down.
Yeah, a lot of guns.
And possibly, maybe someone got freaked out and said, "Oh fuck, you're a psychopath. I'm out of here." Yeah. I don't fucking know. I mean, we could say, we go with simple solution, say it's fucking hooker, and she fucking walked into 135 and said, "What the fuck are you doing? I'm out of here. Fuck this shit."
I mean, and by
you're
the way,
fucking psychopath.
That hooker is scarred for life. Like, she can never, that is the worst dude she's ever been with. She'd be like, "Oh my God, I just walked out of this room and this guy's got," man, it's just mind blowing to me. Like,
yeah,
he's got, however many guns in there. It's just, ugh.
Yeah, and she could have been victim number one.
Yeah, absolutely.
So so there's a lot of things like that. The other thing that was interesting that I just came across recently was, it took the FBI 2 months to positively identify Paddock on the autopsy. Yeah. Now, how crazy is that, right? The fingerprints, I mean, whatever. And I'm sure the conspiracy people should fucking jump all over this, and they probably have in the past. I don't know. But I just went through that, and I'm looking at the report, and it's saying, the person has not positively been ID'd. I forget how they worded it. But he's not been positively ID'd, but it's suspected this is the body of Stephen Paddock, blah, 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 all this shit. The fingerprints were in the body bag with Stephen Paddock, right? When they did the autopsy, I forget when they did the autopsy, it was like the 7th or something. Yeah. But to my memory, the FBI didn't get to those fingerprints, or they did not positively identify him with the fingerprints until December 13th or something.
Yeah,
some of that nature, or the 15th. Isn't that strange? I mean, like,
yeah, the guy's
fuck,
there.
dude.
He's laying there, dead. I mean, what's
Yeah,
the problem?
and I mean, doesn't the LVMPD, aren't they able to do fingerprints?
I mean, the guy's right there in the room. You know, dude. Here, the other problem with this is there's so many anomalies. The anomalies are through the roof of the whole case. I mean, if you, depending on whatever angle you go from, too many anomalies, and that's what creates all the speculation. You know, so
Yeah.
it's understandable to me. I understand why people have speculated. Like, dude, and even to this day, it's just kind of like, here's the explanation, here's what happened, and then it floats out in the ether. Like, here's what it is. Okay, everybody live with it, accept it, and that's what happens in this world now. Like, you just, question it and you die. Like, don't ask any questions. There's all kinds of anomalies. Like, everybody knows that. There's not a single person in this community, despite all the bullshit that went on, that can't sit here to this day and say there are a multitude of anomalies that nobody's ever been able to account for. And look, I guess those happen in these kind of events, but at the same time, there was a lot of them, a ton of them.
Yeah.
So,
like one of the computers we never even got any information off of, right? We got the Dell and we got the Hewlett Packard.
Yeah.
But I believe the third was an Asus or an Acer. I'm not even sure.
Yeah.
But that was the one that was hooked up to the people cam. We never saw shit on that. None of that's on the report. The guy had 2 Los Angeles telephone numbers. Like, what the fuck are you doing, man? You still got telephone numbers from LA. Both those numbers were consecutive numbers too. Like, one is like 3337 and 3338 or some shit like that.
Yeah.
It's like, to me that's kind of crazy, So, it tells me he's probably had those numbers for a very long time. And because that 310 area code's been around forever. And then it's just, it was all kinds of weird, goofy shit. His burner phone was the Vegas one, and then looking at the I forget what it was about the phone calls. I'd have to go back and look at videos on that stuff. But with me, like, what I've been trying to do recently, because the only reason I kind of got back into this, was, basically when Hunter passed away. I kind of was done. But then, someone told me keep going. And there's always been a couple questions I had, which was based off of the people that I know that were there, finding certain victims, and finding people that I knew that were there, in video footage and stuff like that, which is why I'm going through all the video once again. And one of them I found, and a lot of people miss a lot of this stuff because, and I'm not gonna, I can't do videos talking about, and I think I explained this to you. I can't do videos talking about the actual people that died that day because, we've seen that. And when that's happened in the past, it went to shit because everyone used that person as a target dummy for the person that they didn't like. So I think that was fairly stupid. So I'm not going to do that, but I found like a couple people, and to me it's shocking, right? So I'm watching these videos and I'm like, okay, this person looks like this person. Then I cross-reference that, figure out, okay, well, yeah, these tattoos match. This is that person. They're alive in the video, but they died that night, right? So you can trace their footsteps all the way, from the concert to where their final destination was at a hospital. And surprisingly, I've actually found 2 of those, right? And no one's really going to notice that because what you're looking for is people that are looking for this kind of thing are looking for the deceased victims, and they're not deceased in the videos. They're still alive. They made it to the hospital. They just died in the hospital. And I found 2 of those, one of which was exactly what I was looking for. I was looking for a specific person, because it's a friend of a friend, and ran through that. So a lot of this, right now, for me, is just personal stuff. I'm trying to find, trying to get information for for my own personal benefit, and and going through these videos in the way that I am, and the way that I'm doing things is very boring. It's very dry. It's not exciting whatsoever. This is not exciting content I'm trying to do here. And I don't expect anybody to really watch this crap. The only reason I'm doing it is because it's for me to have a record of doing exactly that. So, when I go through, these reports, I'm talking about the reports, for me, I can always go back and look and say, well, listen to myself talk, which is kind of insane. And then, kind of go back and say, well, what did I have a problem with on this? I don't remember what this was, where this was. And I can link certain parts of videos, some of the emails that I get and people I email back and forth with. I can link certain parts of the videos and go, okay, well, here's where I talked about it. Is what I found as far as that goes. Like I said, the big one is the 931 shit, because I remember as I was going through the report and I'm trying to match up the report with the door logs and all that sort of stuff, I get to that 931 point on the first. And I just remember saying, what the fuck am I looking at? What the fuck is this? What is going on here? This makes no sense. And I'm kind of just, in my mind, just frustrated and pissed off because I'm like, I don't understand what the hell this means. This guy's swiping cards and he knows which cards are for which door at this point. But then at 933, somebody has to open the door for him. Like he doesn't have the card for the door anymore, but he never fucking left the hallway according to this. So what is going on here? Like, how does this make any sense?
It's a mess.
And so, that's it's kind of a log for me to kind of go back. And the only reason I'm really kind of doing it even on YouTube, honestly, is just to, so it's someplace for me to store this crap as opposed to me doing it for myself and leaving it on my cell phone.
It kind of lives on. That's why I did it in the first place. Like, that's where it historically lives on. Like, you never know who's going to come back, 6 years from now, because it does happen. People will come searching the stuff 6 years from now and go, oh, so everybody gets caught in the moment. But
well, I feel bad for those people.
So do I, because they got to weed through,
weed through a bunch of crap.
They got to go through like, what the hell is this guy falling off a chair? And this guy getting mad at each other. And
well, no, what they're gonna find is they're going to find, like, who's this 10 guy? Why does everyone keep talking about this 10?
Who the fuck is 10? Yeah.
Yeah, what the fuck is 10 about?
Why is everyone,
this shit?
What's the significance of the number 10? I mean, like,
exactly.
It's so funny, man. But, like, anybody that was there in the beginning, like, of course you know it. But, like, anybody that comes, like, this happens with all the events, whether it's 9/11 or, all the other bullshit. Like, imagine coming 10 years later and then weeding through all the Vegas shit and being like, what the hell happened around here? Like, there's a bunch of people pissed off at each other and yelling and, drama about people, like, creating sock accounts and just stupid
what is
shit.
All this shit? Yeah, it's I always thought about that too, I mean, how crazy is that? Like, if somebody just randomly came into this community, like, what would they see? And they'd be like, who the fuck is 10? What the hell is this shit about?
It's like all the shit I was talking about aliens. Like, aliens have no interest in coming to this planet because they would land here and be like, oh, it's so fucked up, I'm out.
Fuck these people.
They'd be like, oh, no, like, I want to learn about Vegas. Nah, we're good. Like, we're just going to go on to the next thing. Like, that's exactly what
this experiment failed. Start a new planet, man. Experiment's over.
They're like, these people are all yelling at each other. Yeah, well, in the beginning, it was solid. It really was in the beginning.
It was, and I mean, and that's the sad part about it, man. It's like sharing ideas, but that door's been closed,
well,
and it's been closed from all angles, man.
I was trying to say, like, earlier on when I was yammering away, like, it does happen in all these different communities, all of these interests. I know. You know what I mean? Like, you see it. If you follow them, it happens in every one. It always happens where
there's drama everywhere.
Always. Like, it's just like human nature. It always comes in, and the next thing you know, it's like divide and conquer. So, like, even in the other stuff that I've followed, it's like you're all together at first, and then all of a sudden, everybody comes in, and then, at the end of the day, you're lucky to hang on to, like, 10 people that you really respect, and you're like, oh, I'll still talk to them. But at the end of the day, everybody gets involved in all this bullshit, and that's what happens, dude. Like, and it divides the whole thing, and it blows up in your face. So, and I don't know if anybody's any closer to the answers they seeked before all the drama set in. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I don't know.
I think at this point, I always say this, dude. If people want to go into like Vegas or whatever, whatever it is, you have to do your own. You can't trust like any of these YouTube channels. Even me. Like, you got to do your own shit. Yeah. You're not going to come to me for the answers to anything because, I don't know shit, and you can't really trust anything any of these people are saying, because we've heard so much bullshit. Yeah. At this point from every angle. I mean, everybody's been wrong about something here or there, and most of the people, and this drives me nuts, is that most people cannot admit that they're wrong.
Oh no, it's accountability is a major problem.
Yeah.
For everybody.
And it's like, it's stupid because like everybody's going to be wrong. It's going to happen. It's just the way things are. But, that's why I always try every time I fuck something up, because I've done it a million times, dude. I come back and I say, hey, I was wrong about this. This is, what I should have said, but most people, it's like, you just fake it till you make it.
Oh, of course. Like, that's how you get ahead.
And to me, that's fucking insane.
Yeah.
And that's where I have, I made most of my issues with this stuff, but, I don't know, man. I mean, I'll tell you straight up. I think there's a lot of liability on MGM that's being hidden. I think you're right about that. I think MGM's got some skeletons in the closet that they're hiding, and
they're getting dusty. They're getting dusty, man. They're getting dusty.
It's weird to me that the FBI, because I always figured, okay, so you have the police trying to do their job. And I really feel like Lombardo wants to do his job. Then you have the FBI, and I have a hard time, although this year things have changed. But, in the past, I've always said I have a hard time believing the FBI would sit here and collude with the MGM just to save them fucking money. And now that I see things from, with the last year and all the spying that's going on, all the craziness, and realizing the government is, like you said, not on your team. Mm-hmm. That's crazy. That's a little fucking nutty. So now I'm starting to change my tune on that. And it's like, they could possibly, be bought out by the MGM, I guess. That's weird. Mm-hmm. But I guess it's possible. But, I think you're right. As far as, the liability for MGM, I think, is a big thing. I think that's the big thing with Campos. That's why Campos is a problem and always will be.
In transition, to transition out of Vegas a little bit, like I find the older I get, I've been doing this shit, not necessarily with the Vegas community and all that, but just investigating these things for a long, long time. It's kind of that, like, I hate the term, awakening or waking up. I hate that shit. Like, it's so generic. But it's true. I mean, there's an element to it where you're like, oh, you start realizing how, your worldview is not necessarily what you thought it was. And the older I get, I realize, like, there's more and more and more and more, where some of these quote unquote conspiracy theorists, you're like, okay, well, this ended up being somewhat factual. Not always factual. Not always entirely factual, but like little by little, there's little nuggets. I would call them nuggets. They're not entirety of what they're saying, but, things come along where you're like, oh, they weren't talking about that like 10 years ago, and that now we're talking about that again, and it's actually true. Like, and then I wonder to myself, I'm like, are they totally batshit crazy? And there are a group of them that are totally batshit crazy. Don't get me wrong. Like, they're totally nuts. But there is a line of thinking where, again, based on the original, when I was opening up this live stream, I said, man, if every human being could dissolve their tribalism, their biases, their all this bullshit, and just realize, like, dude, we like me and you and probably anybody that's sitting here, like, we're actually all on the same team despite any of our political views or all that shit against the
establishment.
The establishment that is the class of this elite, because it's not a conspiracy to say there is a giant elite class, right?
No.
That is a total fucking conglomerate over everything. And us, everybody else. Black, white, Puerto Rican, Mexican, Asian, anybody. So, like, that's true, and it's the sooner people figure that out and actually bond together over that, because if you think about it, if the division tactic didn't work and everybody were to bond together, they'd be totally screwed. Because there's way too many people. If everybody bonded together over that ideology, they'd be totally screwed. They'd be like, oh, we can't control these people anymore. So I'd like to think that I'd be alive in an era where somewhere that happens, where people are like, oh, these people are all totally full of shit. And I like this guy down the street. I'm white and she's black, or I'm white and he's Puerto Rican, or I'm white but we're all sort of in the same class, and these people are trying to fuck us over. Like, I wish everybody could just get on board with that, but it doesn't work.
Well, I think like, Vegas was kind of a microcosm. Like, I think you were saying that too. Yeah. Where, we had everybody with one goal to find out one thing, and then personalities got involved. Yep. And all of a sudden everybody... You
didn't hear shit about viewpoints or, like, political... You didn't hear anything about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, what the fuck? Oh, sorry. I just saw someone pulling up my driveway. But yeah, I think that's inevitable, man. I mean, when people can't get along and nobody's got any accountability, nobody wants to be wrong, everybody wants to be right. Mm-hmm. What are you gonna do, man? Yeah. It's just...
And the powers that be. The sad thing is, I tell people all the time, when I'm arguing with people about this bullshit, because I basically work with a lot of liberals.
Yeah.
I work with a shit ton of liberals, man. So, what I basically tell everybody is, look, man, you're getting screwed. I'm getting screwed. We're all getting screwed by the same fucking people. And, the only difference is, I think they're assholes, and you're defending them. Yeah. So you're defending somebody that's fucking you, and that's sad. To me, that's fucking sad. That's depressing, right? When I was getting into all these arguments with all the punk rock crowd, I'm basically saying, no, I don't like, BLM because I'm a nonconformist. Mm-hmm. And it's like, the fuck does that mean? It means that they're sponsored by Nike. They're sponsored, Walmart's even getting in the mix. Starbucks is put out BLM shirts and shit like that. I'm like, they are the establishment. Mm-hmm. So, and it's crazy that, the anti-establishment has become the establishment. So I'm like, when someone tells me, oh, you're not punk rock unless you follow BLM, I'm sorry, dude, but you're actually not punk rock unless you don't follow that bullshit, because those are the people that are getting paid off by everybody.
Well, and earlier on, I was talking about groups of, when I talk about the political spectrum, I was talking about the look, you can. It doesn't matter what your views are, like if you can't graduate to the point where you can't criticize your own whatever tribalist thing that you're a part of, if you can't criticize them, you have a problem. It's like the same thing as, like, let's say you supported Trump and you voted for Trump. Most of the people that I know that did vote for Trump or supported Trump, they can criticize him. They can say, dude, guy's a fucking narcissist. He's out of his mind. He said dumb shit. He gives sound bites to you know what I mean? Like, he gives sound bites to the media all the time. Like that's the next graduation. You don't want to be on one of those political factions that's so bought into, like, they can do no wrong, right? Like, this side can do no wrong, this side can do no wrong. They're all full of shit. And what I'm trying to say is, like, if everybody was able to get together and realize, look, we are people that are way down here on the totem pole. And what they've got us doing is buying into these ideologies that divide everybody. It's the oldest tactic in the book, man. It's a war game tactic. Yeah. Divide and conquer. Put these people over here, put these people over here. And if everybody was able to realize, like, dude, we actually, if you disband all that, and what we were talking about way in the beginning with, old school shit where we've transferred over from old school classic liberal Democrat, to whatever the fuck it is now, because it's not the same. It's just simply not the same. It used to be a completely different world, 15, 20 years ago. If you can...
Well, they moved the spectrum.
They totally, and it's been hijacked, man. It's just been hijacked by really radical ideologies and all that different stuff. And with that said, at the same time, I'm not a fucking conservative, you know.
Yeah,
I'm not going to sign up for the but at the same time, I'm like, you have to graduate to these points of you realize, like, listen, when I go out and I talk to people, I love these people. I don't give a shit what you are, you know. If you're a cool person, whatever you're, you know, if you are an intelligent person and you're doing all this stuff. But so many people, they need a tribe. They got to sign up for a tribe, and then they start bashing everybody on either side. It's super counterproductive. If everybody would realize, hey man, it's us versus them. Okay, this is going on in the stock market. It's going on everywhere, right? It's this class versus that class. It's the elite versus everybody else. The sooner everybody else figures that out, the better off we'll be. Forget about your fucking politics and your classes. The sooner you figure out it's us versus everybody else, the better off we'll all be. Because if we were all to bond together on that, there is no shot. They got no shot. There's no shot of control for anybody. And one political party's control is not good for anybody, Republican or Democrat. You don't want universal control for any party. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm in favor of saying fuck all these people because they're full of shit. They're all full of shit. You know?
Yeah, we used to. Oh, hold on a second. I gotta get some smokes.
There you go. He's going up to the store.
Hold on, you go ahead and talk. I'll talk. I'll be back in a minute.
Let's see. What are they going for there in California? $19.75 a pack. There he goes. Well, we'll see if he comes back here, folks. This has been a long stream that I did not plan to have, but I will wrap up if he doesn't come back on this note because I started it this same way. We have a serious problem in this country where we need to figure out psychologically that everybody in terms of their being human. There he is. He's back. Let me finish my diatribe.
Go ahead.
What I was saying is that my opinion is we have a serious problem in this country of everybody needs to understand, like, the indoctrination of people into their tribes is so bad at this point. I don't remember this when I was growing up because it just wasn't as prevalent. It was more appropriate to hang out with people. You didn't talk about politics or all the other bullshit. And I just feel like it's so toxic that the more people can focus on the macro and zooming out and understanding that, I think psychology is the way of understanding people and how they think and how their brains operate and what makes them tick as a person and what kind of things they're into. Their politics and all this bullshit that's going on to divide everybody doesn't mean shit. I think it's total bullshit. I think it divides everybody. I think it's a tactic that's been in place for a long time, and it's working to a T. And I feel like the sooner everybody figures that out, the better off we'll all be. And that's my stance on that, man. Because I can talk to everybody from every side of the equation until they start, trying to say you're a fucking asshole or you're a racist or you're this. It's like, no, you don't get to decide that, You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
I just, the fucking, the only power the government has is the people behind them. Mm-hmm. That's the way I've always felt about it. And so without the people behind them, they have absolutely nothing, right? They need the military because they need the military to enforce laws. They need the police force to enforce laws. But without, if they were on their own, if Pelosi and all these people were out on an island by themselves, they got no fucking power. Realistically, they're just people like everybody else. It's just, they have the power of the people behind them, and that's the problem that, if you take that power away from them and everybody in society is united, at that point, they're screwed. Their whole little clown show fucking falls apart.
Well, the way I look at it is that the majority of this country is in a giant dysfunctional manipulative relationship. narcissistic, manipulative relationship where they're trying to tell you what to believe, who to hate, who you can't get along with, who's wrong, who's this, who's that. It's abusive, man. It's the equivalent of being in an abusive, manipulative relationship on a massive scale. And
it's all based off propaganda.
It is. I mean, that's what's going on. It's all psychological. And if people would understand that and just realize, man, my neighbors, my friends, my neighbors, whatever, like, I don't talk to them. The first thing I don't give a shit what their political views are,
Yeah.
I care about what kind of person they are, what they're into, what their hobbies are. I don't give a shit about any of that. And then as soon as you start interjecting that, that's when it all goes off the rails.
Yeah.
So you realize real fast, you're like, oh shit, and we've gotten to that point. So I don't know. Well, we'll wrap this up. I know you got your stuff going on, and I appreciate you because we've had some good. It was good stuff though, because we talked a lot about Vegas, more about Vegas than I anticipated.
Yeah, I'm always down to talk about Vegas. It's just like I said. I don't know. I'd have to go back through some videos to get like timestamps, stuff like that, to figure out a little bit more in depth of how to talk about some of this stuff. But
we're not doing scientific evidence around here. We're giving opinions.
just jabbering. But I mean, Vegas is always a topic for me, and I love talking about Vegas. But I it's kind of a bad thing to say, but fuck, man. I mean, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's
still there.
Yeah, it's an event that happened, man, and we don't have all the fucking answers, and I don't think we ever will. But there's FOIAs out there, and I'm about to start filing some of my own, and so hopefully, something comes eventually of something out there.
Yeah.
I figured with everything that's gone on this year, they would stop caring about what happened in Vegas and just spill it. But you know
damn well that shit doesn't come out for like 20 years.
Yeah, and the lawsuits are kind of dying out. I think most of the people got their money, but I think there's like 2 or 3 holdouts, if I remember right, that didn't settle. So they're still in litigation for this stuff. And what was it that I was looking at? The child porn. Was it child porn I was talking about? They could say, I realized this the other day, and hopefully they're not listening to this. So,
they're not.
Yeah, I'm sure. But, one thing I realized with Vegas is this can go on forever. Like, they don't ever have to give us shit.
Yeah.
Because they can use that ongoing investigation thing forever. Because there's an ongoing investigation. It says it in the report into the child porn that was found supposedly on his computer. Right. So, all his pictures of Epstein or whatever. And so that stuff, because of that, they can sit here and say, yeah, there's
porn on his computers, and that will go on literally forever.
Yeah.
That'll never get solved. They're never going to find the child porn. They're never. I mean,
I would have a hard time even believing they're looking for it.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like this thing they could just use that excuse forever. But right now, I think they're supposedly they're telling people that they're going to give them the information, but it's going to take a while, and they keep pushing it back and pushing it back and pushing it back. What information they're going to give, I don't fucking know. I don't have a clue. But like I said, I wanted to jump into the FOIA arena just because I'm kind of curious, if they'll, if you target one specific thing and say, I want this person's stuff, to me, that would be interesting. The other thing that Hunter was hitting on for a while there, and he actually found out who this, basically who this guy was, and Dixon did a little bit of digging on this guy. I believe it's Detective DeAngelis.
Mm-hmm.
So DeAngelis was an interesting character because he did a lot of the interviews that are pretty pivotal within this whole thing. One of them was Joanna. That's what got him on that. Mm-hmm. And all the Detective DeAngelis interviews got scrubbed. So I guess the FOIA, when they put FOIA requests in for the the actual audio of those interviews, it's all scrubbed out. You're not going to find that.
Wow.
They said they recorded over it, right? So they recorded over fucking evidence, which is crazy to me. You know, and but you know, Detective DeAngelis, his interviews were really shitty, and so you know that was kind of why he was getting curious for a while, like, who is this guy? What is this guy? I can't remember where he went to. His wife, to my memory, his wife was director of IT at Mandalay Bay. Mm-hmm. And him himself, he went off to do something else, and I can't remember what the hell it was now. If he went to work for another casino or something like that, I can't remember. But you know, he was hitting on that pretty hard for a while, and you know, that was always an issue because he wanted to know about his Joanna chick, and that's kind of why I never got myself involved in like a single theory for any of it, because you know that was really what he did. He was like die hard on Joanna. Joanna was telling the truth, you know, and you know she worked in the essentials shop and she saw Paddock on a certain day at 4:00 in the afternoon, and I believe at that time there were, you know, door log, you know, lock interrogation stuff going on within a few minutes of that. And so it's like, okay, you know, that was a huge argument that had been going back and forth for a very long time between me and him. And, you know, and I'm like, you know, look, you know, the problem is you have nothing to support this whatsoever. You know, she could have been full of shit. She could have had the wrong day. You know, there's all kinds of fucking problems with this girl. But, you know, she did say she saw him, you know, twice, I believe. And so he was just insistent that was the thing. And it is possible if you're talking about two people. The problem is proving that is just not possible because not enough information out there.
Right.
So, you know, because of stuff like that, you know, that's why that was kind of the relationship that we had where, you know, I was the debunker and he was the one coming up with things and trying to say, well, go ahead and try to explain.
Yeah,
I was like, try to explain this, fucker. And it's like, okay, well, if I, you know, I mean, like I said, one of these days I'll edit one of the later videos he sent me. You know, in fact, the last video kind of breaks me up every time I listen to it, but I'll send it to you because he enjoyed your streams when you did them.
Oh, because we're on here talking about shit like this. We end up getting in these conversations, right?
Yeah, and I mean, you know, and it's kind of sad because what I'm doing now is what he wanted me to do the whole time. And I always kind of resisted because I just never wanted to get back into it. You know, I didn't want to get back into Vegas. I just didn't. And, you know, he kept me going as far as, you know, sending shit to me and saying, how do you explain this shit? How do you explain this shit? Go ahead and try to explain this shit. Right. And, you know, and when it came to like, you know, the last video he did, you know, we've been going back and forth for a while on that thing with the 48 minutes to the D Hotel. And I'm like, you know, and you know, it's when you start tearing shit apart, it's like, well, bro, like, how do they know he was in Mesquite? Like, how do they know that? You know, what are they going off of? Because, you know, they're not saying cell phone records, but they were saying cell phone records the night before. But then again, the way this whole report is chopped up, you know, it's possible that it was cell phone records. So then, you know, he went in and he figured out the very last cell phone tower outside of Mesquite that would have pinged his cell phone, how many miles it was from that exact cell phone tower, the range of that cell phone tower to, you know, the D Hotel. And he's like, okay, I can get it down to about 108 miles an hour. And I'm like, dude, this guy did not drive 108 miles an hour all the way from Mesquite into Vegas. It's just not a thing, dude. He didn't do that. You know, it didn't happen. And so that was one of the arguments we had. I go, dude, it just didn't happen. It did not fucking happen. That did not happen. That is not true. You know, what they're saying in that report at that point is not true, is not a possibility. I don't believe this old man in a Chrysler Pacifica that maxes out at 115 miles an hour is going to be driving 108 miles an hour all the way to Vegas. That's not a thing. That's not
more than fair. More than fair assumption.
Yeah, that's not what happened. So find something else. You know, did he fly? Well, if he flew, and you know, something Hunter did. He went and he found that there's an airport in Mesquite. Holy shit, okay, there's an airport in Mesquite, and it flies to Vegas. Okay, so did he fly to, in order to make that work, okay, he flew to, what is it, North Las Vegas or whatever. There's an airport over there, kind of by the downtown area. Okay, so he had to fly a small plane into the downtown area, and it's like, okay, well, let's say Derek, the guy who runs the D Hotel, chauffeured this flight for him because maybe he spent some money in the D or something like that. Maybe that's why he ended up at the D Hotel, because he got a limo ride or whatever to the D, and then he walked his shit over to the Ogden. But why would you walk a bunch of baggage and shit across that crazy ass Fremont Street? That's nuts. I mean, that's insane, dude. Walking your luggage across that street, I mean, that's crazy. And through that madness, that's nuts. And then we went so far as where, I mean, at least, I was going through and I was trying to find any video of Fremont Street before that happened. So I started going into, like, some dude shows a video of Route 91, right? It's not a shooting video. It's just a video of him being there and not witnessing a shooting. And then going into his other videos and seeing his Fremont Street experience stuff, and trying to find Paddock in the Fremont Street, which is like a needle in a fucking haystack, dude. It's just insane. So, we're trying to do stuff like that. But, you get into something like that and you're like, dude, this report is broken. The report is just a fucking mess.
Oh, it's been broken.
So,
yeah,
I mean, in all parts of that report, as far as the actual written timeline goes, I don't believe any of that. I think that's all just, made up bullshit, or a lot of it is. I think it's based off fact, but it's loosely based off fact, kind of like the Titanic movie. And, but as far as I'm concerned, it's kind of what it is, you're watching it for entertainment as opposed to watching it for basic facts. And, it was so that whole thing was just junk, and as we're going through it, we'd end up in these crazy ass arguments about, no, dude, that didn't happen. I'm sorry, it just didn't happen. Well, what if he, this cell phone tower, okay, so let's say 108 miles an hour. No, dude, he didn't drive 108 miles an hour, dude. That didn't happen. It takes him on average an hour and 15 minutes to get back and forth from there. He cut that drive down by almost a half hour. That's crazy. Yeah. Fuck no, that didn't happen. I could see if it's a 5-hour drive and he cut, 20 minutes off of that drive, I could see that, but no, dude, this guy did not drive 115 miles an hour in a Chrysler Pacifica that maxes out at 115 miles an hour. That's just not a thing, dude. He's not just burning the road up. That's dumb. But his whole thing was, with that, he wanted to go into, okay, so if this guy actually did drive 115 miles an hour with a bunch of guns in the car, in threat of being arrested at some point, why was he in such a hurry, at that point? And, and that was kind of the angle he was taking. And, and I thought that was very interesting because, at that point you're like, well, okay, so yeah, why did he drive back? Why did he care? Why was he in, why did he stay at the Ogden at all? Like, why did he even rent those rooms out? What was the point in that? Because there was absolutely zero point in that. He didn't really spend any time in there. So what the hell's going on with that Ogden stuff?
Right. I mean, the whole theory about him, test piloting the whole event through the Ogden and all that stuff, like that's still talked about, to this day. Podcast.
Yeah, I always thought that was kind of. Oh, one other thing, real quick. As far as Vegas goes, what always trips me out. Have you ever been in any other community or watched any other videos where they talk about Vegas?
A little bit here and there. Yeah.
I trip out, dude, every time I hear it. Every time I hear it, dude. When I used to watch the riots up there in Portland, when, before Antifa stopped everybody from filming, back in those days when it was actually kind of just entertainment, used to watch that, dude, and you would see people in the comments saying, where's Stephen Peck when we need him?
Oh my god.
And I'm like, Jesus, man, that is such an obscure reference.
Yeah, for sure.
You actually know, and they would name him by name, they wouldn't say Las Vegas shooter, they would say fucking his name.
Stephen Paddock, yeah, that's weird.
And it's like, Jesus, a lot of people actually know about this stuff. And then,
They do,
you know,
more
I
than you
heard it
know.
on a couple other, you know, streams of, you know, people that just kind of rant and rave about politics or whatever.
Right.
But occasionally they'll say something like, yeah, we believe the FBI, just like what happened in Vegas. And it's like, oh my God, dude.
Right.
You know, this is a guy with, you know, 200,000 people watching him.
Right.
And he's talking about Vegas. That's
Right.
crazy.
It's weird.
I heard, you know, I watch one guy I like, and I'll actually name drop him, but I watch Tim Pool once in a while.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know anything about Tim Pool.
Of course.
But I really like Tim Pool. And, you know, I don't always agree with him, but yeah, he's entertaining.
I do. I love him, but he's getting a little overzealous with his guests.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, dude, you gotta let him just talk sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he well, that's why he lost the last guy. Like that Adam Krigler guy, when he had him on, that's what he said. He said the guy just he's too arrogant. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, but I do, you know, I'm entertained by the guy. So one day he mentioned Vegas, and I was tripping out on that. I was like, wow, these people actually, some of these people paid attention. He, you know, somebody asked him something about, or said something about Vegas in reference to some other event. I forget what it was. But it might have been the bombing out there in Tennessee, actually.
Yeah.
But they referenced, somebody referenced Vegas. I remember Tim Pool saying, well, there's not enough evidence for that. We don't know what happened there.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, even Tim Pool fucking kind of followed Vegas for that's crazy.
You know,
to me, that's absolutely bananas.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
And like I said, you know, he's got, I don't know how many thousands of people watching him live.
Millions.
You know, and then you know, and he's spilling that shit on the air. It's like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But so there's still interest out there. It's just it's not within this community. That's for damn sure.
Nah, it's waning.
And
well,
that's it. Yeah.
You know what? It's I've said before, like there's things floating around out there that have not been answered. We know that. And it started with a conglomerate of people that came together to look at all the different stuff. But I get it. You know, people move on to different things, myself included. I mean, all kind of different stuff going on. But definitely don't feel like there's a definitive answer to it. You know,
I wish somebody would actually, like somebody that knew what they were doing, would actually go through and do like a documentary style video.
Yeah,
of
and
the
all
whole
the things thus far that have come up. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's people out there with the talent to do it. Mm-hmm. You know, they've done really good videos. You know, some of them I think are crackpots, but they've done really good videos as far as you know, the stuff goes. And I'm really surprised nobody's actually gone out there and actually done like a solid, you know, this is what the report states happened, and, you know, go through it and show, you know, video footage that we have, and then show, you know, documents that we have, and then add in, you know, animations of, you know, what's missing and stuff like that, which Richard, like you look at what October 1st Sounds did recently. And he did a little graphic, which was amazing, of Paddock basically walking up and down that hallway. Because you were talking about that earlier, you know, the timing it took up and down the hallway. He actually did a graphic of that, and I was like, wow, this is crazy, dude. I mean, he had a little Paddock walking up and down that hallway, walking into the rooms, going down the elevator, walking out of the hotel, into his car, and then, you know, doing a map of from Vegas to Mesquite, and having the little car move up the map from Vegas to Mesquite.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. I can tell you it's a lot of work to do that. I know that.
Oh, it's got to be a shit ton of work. But man, I mean, I'm surprised that at this point we don't have something like that. Like nobody's ever taken the time to actually do something like that. Yeah. And I wouldn't even know how. So to me, it's, you know, I can't do it. But
I would, and I know how much work it would take. It's like, well, and then,
it's
and
crazy.
Then you'd get nothing but resistance. Like you'd get like, well, you know, you didn't include this, and you poo-pooed that.
Oh yeah, you didn't talk about helicopters.
Yeah, you didn't say this. You didn't talk about this theory and that theory, and oh Christ.
Yeah, instead all we got is, you know, stupid, you know, the documentaries that come out are just fucking garbage. Yeah. You know, everything I've ever seen out in Vegas has been trash. And then some dude wrote a book, at one point, and one of the people that was there with told me about it one day. She's like, "Hey, they just came out with a book about Las Vegas." I'm like, "Oh shit, okay." So I went and downloaded it on Audible, and I'm like, "Oh, this got to be fucking interesting. It's got to be somebody who was in one of these communities, paying attention." And the fucking dude starts out by saying, "Yeah, my daughter and her friend were supposed to be at the Vegas, the Route 91 concert, and this is what this is my story of what I think would have happened to them if they had attended." And I'm like, "Oh, dude, it's fiction. The fuck?
Fiction? Yeah.
You're
no.
making money off fiction off Vegas?
Yeah.
That's fucking bullshit." So
Capitalizing on that.
So yeah, that was kind of terrible. But that's kind of thing that we have. I mean, remember the Mr. Visual video with the only one that I really thought mattered with the shooting out shooting at the concert and counting the bullets and all that sort of stuff, which I don't think was all that accurate. But the thing with that is what I'm very surprised about, what I always wanted to see, and nobody's ever actually done. And I think it would be amazing. And for me, it's selfish. I wanted to see because I want to know when the rounds were hitting near friends of mine. Because I think my buddy was hit on the third round, but I'm not sure where those bullets were hitting. In a general area, you're never going to be exact, of course, but in a general area where those bullets were hitting, you should be able to triangulate the sound using various cameras throughout the event. So, originally I thought, maybe I would try and do something like this, and quit really fast because I got in an argument with everybody about whether the first shots were 6 shots or more than 6 shots, which turns out I think it was 9 shots or something, according to the fire department. Because you hear one of those shots hit near that tall Ace of Spades camera, but you don't hear from the VIP. So that tells you, okay, the bullet hit somewhere near the tall Ace of Spades camera. And then the next bullet, the next 2 bullets, I believe it is, or something of this nature, you hear them from both cameras. Okay, that hits somewhere in the middle. Those hit somewhere in the middle. And then you start hearing them from the VIP section, and you can't hear them from the tall Ace of Spades. So you're like, okay, those are hitting near the VIP. So you can actually kind of triangulate where generally the bullets are hitting. And I'm very surprised nobody's ever actually mapped that out, because to me that's curious, right? Like if we're going to talk about let's say and I hate bringing up the name, Melissa Ramirez, right? And somebody that was hit way outside of the venue according to what we're the narrative that we're supposed to believe, which I don't know if I do, but if we're to believe that narrative, then she was hit way outside of that venue, which means, we may not have a camera that shows, that bullet hitting or whatever. But, by, using other cameras and kind of mapping out where these bullets were hitting at what time, we can kind of get an idea of where this guy was shooting at what times, what crowds he was shooting at what times. And I always thought that would be very interesting. So, you can take that Mr. Visual video, and you can use various cameras, and you can kind of sit there and stick dots on which cameras can hear this round, this volley. Let's say the first third of a volley hit. You can hear it from this camera, but you can't hear it from this camera. That means it hit somewhere near here. Put a bunch of pins on it, and kind of get an idea of basically where these rounds were landing. And I always thought that would be interesting, but we haven't even gotten that. So it's like, there's a lot that can be done that hasn't been done. And, of course, I don't really have the audio skills to do shit like that, so I'm not going to try to do something like that. And I got hung up on the beginning because, when you go into the first shots, tall Ace Spades, whatever camera you're using, when you go into those first shots, you can hear a muzzle blast of about 3 different muzzle blasts on the first round. So that first round was actually, it was more than one round that was fired. We just don't know where the other ones landed, and everyone used to argue that with me. And it was just like, that's when I kind of gave up. I'm like, what, fuck it, dude, because I can hear them. It's obvious to me. I wear big fucking, studio headphones for this shit. And I can hear them. and you should be able to hear them too. You're not going to hear them on your cell phone most likely, but I can hear them. And, you know, I'm not listening to the stupid sonic cracks. The sonic cracks are stupid. They're pointless. They're like, you know, COVID cases. Unless you're fucking treating every single person, they don't fucking matter. So, you know, sonic cracks don't mean shit. The muzzle blast means shit, man. That's how many bullets are fired. It's the amount of times that gun is pumping out bullets. That's how many bullets are being fired, not how many times that freaking sonic crack goes by that camera. That's irrelevant. So everyone argued with me on that shit. And then, and then the fire department came out and backed me up. So that was kind of cool. And then, did you know, like, this tripped me out, man. I got to give props to, I believe it was Diana Diana A, that came up with it, that saw this. That there's that on that Tall Ace of Spades video, you can actually see someone get hit in the first, I think is it the first volley?
You can't, right in the initial.
The initial volley.
Yeah,
you see a guy get hit right next to the Coca-Cola, or sitting on the Coca-Cola booze.
Yeah, you can.
That's crazy. I didn't, to me that was, I never noticed that before. She pointed that out. I was like, holy shit, you're right. That's crazy. Yeah. So, as far as the impacts go, I think that's the only one other than the girl that gets hit in the leg, gets, clipped in the leg in one of the videos. But, I don't know. That's I don't know. It's crazy to me. Anyways, but yeah, fucking Vegas.
Vegas, right? We'll take you down some rabbit holes. But listen, I'm gonna go. I gotta let the dog out.
Yeah,
I gotta do the late night stuff. But I gotta read the email you sent. I will do that. I promise you.
Oh yeah, no problem. No problem.
It's long, and I really do appreciate you coming on, because it's been a long time, man.
Yeah, it's good talking to you, man. I like talking to you.
It was fun. I think we had a good time talking about. I mean, it's just good catching up.
Vegas.
Yeah, it's been actually, we, and some of the other stuff that we were talking about, and some of the other older live streams, we were talking about Vegas, but
yeah,
so that's fun.
We'll have to, we'll have to, if you want to do it again, man, someday we'll, when I get a little more into this, man, we'll talk about Vegas some more.
Yeah, I just, I decided after getting your email, and I was like, I'm gonna jump on tonight. Had a couple beers, and I was like, I'm gonna get on and we'll talk about some shit. So.
Yeah,
it's how I roll. It's spontaneous as hell.
Yeah, it definitely was. All right, man. Well, you go do your thing, and I'll talk to you later.
All right, man. You have a good one. Be safe.
All right, you too.
All right, man.
Later.
All right. So that's gonna do it. That was good. That was a long chat. A lot more about Vegas that I did not anticipate, and so rewind back to the beginning if you want to hear the initial monologue. But I'll be back. We're gonna do some more stuff like that. I want to thank Pointed Stick, because he emailed me, came out of the blue. We was talking about Vegas a little bit, and that's where that came from. So it's good to talk about it, rehash some of the stuff, and just kind of go over some stuff. And we talk about stuff behind the scenes a little bit, not as much, nearly as much as he does with some other people, but it was good. I hope everybody enjoyed. Anybody that did stop by, I appreciate you. Thank you. I'm sorry for being away so long, even though you don't really care. And I will be back here intermittently. We'll do some more stuff like this. I'm actually thinking about doing some other things, just short videos and things of that nature. But I never give up on this channel, man. It's my namesake. I can't just totally give up on it, because it's my name. It's my name. I don't know what else to do with it. What the hell else am I going to do with this, right? So just talk about current world events and all that different stuff. And I had a good time. Talking to him. It was a good listen. And appreciate anybody that did stop in. Thanks for chatting. Thanks for getting in the chat. Appreciate y'all. Till next time. And peace out.